Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. May the Fort be with you. I'm Delaine from Hinton Brand Dealerships, and I'm your co-host for this galaxy-changing event. There has been an awakening in automotive. Have you felt it? The Force, it's calling you. Just let it in. We have another amazing lineup of Jedi Masters and Rebel leaders speaking from around the globe. But before we begin day 2 of our 16th Fixed Ops Roundtable event, remember, your focus determines your reality. Like to remind you about our intergalactic chat feature on the right side of your screen. We encourage you to have cosmic conversations with other attendees. Just make sure that you select everyone and not just host and panelists. Now be brave and don't look back. Alexis Cisneros from Dealerware delivers our first keynote of the day.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is a great honor to present the roundtable with Alexis Cisneros from Dealerware. And if you remember, Dealerware stood with the roundtable back in the early days when we were just getting started. And Alexis, welcome to the event.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Ted. It's an honor to kick everyone off this morning. I've been greatly inspired by keynotes at Fixed Ops Roundtable before, so really appreciate the opportunity. As Ted introduced, my name is Alexis Cisneros, and I am a Customer Success Account Manager here at Dealerware. We are a fleet management software company that enables our dealers to manage their courtesy, loaner, or rental fleets while providing a timely and smooth experience for their customers, but also giving our dealers an opportunity to really efficiently track their fleet inventory. Today, I am so excited to share the ways that we have created space, not just for us, but our dealers, to really commit to the concept of customer obsession. I'm going to talk a little bit about how the phrase skip intro really influenced some of our founding principles for our customer obsession today. And I know this is not a new concept for our Fixed Ops Roundtable audience. I was really inspired by a keynote delivered by Liza Borges about a year and a half ago, talking about the fostering a win-win culture at the dealership. It wasn't just her story and her successes of the dealers that really inspired me, but mostly her passion, really recruiting the masses to her mission of improving the lives of the many people that the automotive industry touches every day. But of course, as a provider of technology, while I feel I stand in the same room as Liza and the customer-obsessed dealers that I'm sure are here today, I do feel like I sit in a bit of a different corner. And so today, I want to continue to share our journey from vendor to partner and some of the things that we've learned along the way to enable just the environment that groups like Carter Myers Automotive and many of you that are in the audience today are continuing to promote. We can all agree that the first step of customer obsession is really understanding the customer. And we know that that means understanding what the customer wants to accomplish, their budget, how much money they have to accomplish that goal, but most importantly, how much time they have. I have really had the luxury of working with dealerships all across the country and seeing many different operations from brands, sizes, regions, and this is what I can report back. Every dealership is unique in their own way, but every dealership customer values the same things. From the way that manufacturers and dealer groups are approaching new products, like appointment schedulers, check-in tools, to the way that service departments are really utilizing different technologies, especially in light of the inventory shortages we're seeing today, like Uber or Lyft. What we know is that time remains the most valuable currency from the top down. But this is not unique to automotive. Let's take one of the most vital apps that is in my home today, Netflix. I think many of us are pretty familiar with the skip intro button that is at the very beginning of our most bingeable shows. The Streamable asked a really intriguing question about this button. How much time is it really saving? And are you ready for this? In one day, this button is clicked 136 billion times, saving members an astonishing 195 years in cumulative time. I don't think Netflix is far from hitting the billions, but either way, it's an astonishing metric. So of course, I had to take it a step further, right? What does this mean for us in the automotive industry? For me, I thought of the 15 to 20 minutes that a customer spends when waiting to get a loaner or a rental at a desk at the dealership. If we could offer them that same skip intro button, how much time would we save them and ourselves? 15 minutes, it's not a lot, but it can be life-changing. And I want to tell you a story about a time where that felt very relevant. I'm going to take you back to a time that is far, far away. It's not actually that far. It's more like April 2020. I think we all wish it was a little bit farther away than it really was. At that time, I was settling into my new office, which was actually my kitchen. We had all been sent to work from home. We're about 2 weeks in to what we would later find out to be almost 2 years of time spent there. My house was in chaos. My animals are all over the house. My family is finding different rooms among the house to try and work or go to school. We were all just trying to figure out what this new normal meant. And while my house was busy, Dealerware was busier. We were taking phone calls morning, noon, and night from our dealerships that were truly walking into a variety of different experiences. Some of them were experiencing their very first shutdown of many, we come to find out later. Others were talking to their colleagues on the phone, watching the news, and calling us to try to prepare for what we found out later was really the inevitable. And through all this, our team was really just trying to do everything that we could to be as helpful as possible. And on one of these days, when the dogs are going crazy and the house is nuts and the phone is ringing off the hook, I got a phone call from the general manager at Fox Valley Volkswagen St. Charles. And her name is Gabrielle Ebenian. She called me at 11:40 that morning, and she was in a panic. I didn't get a lot of context from that phone call, but what I did understand was her sense of urgency. She had 20 minutes to upload vehicles that needed to be contracted at noon, and she didn't have the time. So I told Gabrielle I needed to get to work, and I hung up the phone. I did just that. I got the VIN information I needed. I uploaded all the information she needed, and I called her back just before noon to say, contract away. You're good to go. Call me if you have any questions. As soon as I got off the phone with her, I went to make a sandwich. Not just because it was lunchtime, but because it was just another day at the office, or in this case, my kitchen. I did what any customer-obsessed person does, right? I listened to her problem, I understood her sense of urgency, and I got her a solution as swiftly as possible. I really didn't think about that phone call again until the next morning when Gabrielle sent me a note and I quickly understood why she was in such a panic that morning. Those vehicles were getting ready to go to some very important people. If you would have told me that 20 minutes of work I did before lunch on a Tuesday would have resulted in helping frontline workers take care of sick children, I would have never believed you. This is the moment that I became customer obsessed. But more so, it's the moment that I understood that my obsession with you, the dealer, really creates the space for you to be obsessed with your own teams and your own customers. And in the case of Fox Valley Volkswagen St. Charles, your communities. I know that you've all experienced things like this in the last 2 years. Requests that put you on the front line of big needs and drastic changes, just like us. We were able to help Fox Valley Volkswagen make a drastic impact in that 20 minutes because we understood the strategic pieces that needed to be in place in order to make really great things happen fast. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. How we emphasize process, technology, and people, and encourage our dealers to do the same to create these type of moments over and over and over again. So let's dig right into it. Let's talk about process. Step 1, measure your customer life cycle. This isn't just meant to be a dissection of where your customer goes and who they talk to, but to really analyze the time that they spend in those interactions. Are there any lapses in communication between your BDC and your service advisor? Are there any mechanisms that you can create amongst your service departments or the different members that speak to that department so that they can communicate earlier and more often to save those really timely interactions? And do this often. We understand that there is some seasonality to the dealership, no matter how busy the service department is. Summers and holidays, how do these months mark up to each other when it comes to the life cycle of your customer, and what adjustments do you need to make based on that volume? Once you've documented this process, take all that data and turn it into actionable insights. And I know data, the buzzword of the decade, right? We're fixed ops and we're drowning in it. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming, or maybe even more like a data readout than it does something that you can take action on. By reviewing trends and comparisons in a way, whether that's internally year over year, quarter over quarter, or externally with other dealers that are in your group or in your brand, taking these comparisons and turning them into actionable insights will deliver great value, particularly for my next suggestion, performance reviews. Bringing your team together to share these trends and comparisons on a regular basis is such a great way not to just identify some training opportunities at the dealership, but also create the space for your team to share their own ideas from the foxhole that is the service drive. What patterns are they seeing in their customers' requests or their customers' experiences? What tools do they need in order to shave off a few seconds or a few minutes from their interactions every day? What are the really sticky, mundane, day-to-day activities that they find themselves doing that can be automated or processed so that they can spend time on higher value activities? Taking 30 minutes to an hour on a quarterly basis might sound like a really big ask for a department as busy as service, but I tell you, the juice is worth the squeeze. Those 30 minutes to an hour every quarter could result in hours or days or weeks worth of time saved from automating these processes that you get to talk about here. Another very important piece of fine-tuning your process is making sure that you're leveraging the right technology. Are you maximizing the value of the technology partners that you are currently using today in your drive? Do you understand how each of those tools are really serving you in your digital toolkit? Having somebody at the dealership that is constantly staying on top of new feature requests or providing product feedback to these partners, it really gives an opportunity not just to elevate your dealership and your team, but everyone that is in this virtual room here today. We're all in this learning curve together. And so another important piece that you can consider, or another opportunity to look at with your team, is finding every place where your service advisor is inputting the same information twice. Are there any integration opportunities with the existing technology partners that you have today? Is there one less login or one less screen that is going to save your service advisor 30 to 45 seconds per interaction? More and more automotive partners are leveraging their integration opportunities to get your service advisors closer and closer to the fixed ops utopia that is one screen. But many of those integrations need the encouragement of dealers like you, who understand what it's like in reality, not in the theory of a technical sandbox, right? But more importantly, try new things. If there's another universal truth that I have found in working with dealerships all over the country, it is this: the pandemic has accelerated the future of the dealership. As my mother always said, and I hate to admit it, she's right, the only constant is truly change. And that has never been truer than it is today. Now is really the time to get out of your comfort zone and try to do things differently, as we are all truly in this learning curve together. A very important part of the word together is people. And what really makes that community valuable is understanding the feedback loop of your customers. In an ever-changing digital world, making the dealership personal between texting tools, online appointment schedulers, apps that you use to communicate after an RO is created, it's a challenge to stay human. And tapping into the empathy and the relationship building of the customer is still so key. And so one of the best things that I have seen dealers do is leverage their CSI feedback in a really meaningful and intentional way. One of the most compelling stories that stuck with me from Liza's keynote talked about the phone call that she would make after their service appointments to really understand what they could do better and how their customers' experience went. Those are the kind of high-value activities that your team can afford to do when they start to save time in the processes and the technologies that we discussed earlier. Those kinds of phone calls that Liza's team made really make customers feel valued and heard, and it's what wins business back. And while the voice of the customer is extraordinarily important, I would argue there's a really close second, and that's your team. Those associates at the dealership that are making the customer-obsessed magic happen day in and day out, they might not always be in the service department either. During those regular scheduled performance reviews that we discussed earlier, I highly suggest taking some time to really elevate the voice of the champions that are at your dealership. Not just because they're special and they need to feel value and heard, but because the greater their voices, the greater the chance that your entire team is infected with customer experience, customer obsession. Those champions are contagious, and it's the kind of epidemic that you want started in your dealership or your group. I also promise I will not make another COVID metaphor for the rest of this discussion. But that really brings me to my favorite of all these keys, celebrating wins. If there's anything that I can encourage you to do with all of the time that you save, it is this: taking time to celebrate what it looks like investing in processes, technology, and people. Not only do I love celebrating wins because I love a good party, I love a good feel-good moment, but also this is something that I have seen implemented that has really changed the lives of dealerships and the people that work within them. I would love to take a few minutes to celebrate a few dealerships that performed in a phenomenal way in 2021. I'm going to start with Audi North Miami at 98% utilization across the year. A dealership that has perfected their processes to keep their courtesy fleet moving and their customers moving too is going to have a wonderful fleet utilization. This means that the dealership is operating at maximum efficiency and having some great customer communication. But it doesn't stop there. I'll go into Lehman Volvo Cars of York with under a day length of loan. I'll state the obvious. That means that their customers that had a loaner had their repair orders completed in just one day. Not only are they leveraging technology to manage their length of loan data and keep their processes airtight, but this is another example of stellar communication between a service advisor and a customer to ensure that that time to return is as succinct as possible. Next up, we all know that time is money, but Mercedes-Benz of Manhattan showed that in a very real way. Nearly $250,000 in fuel and toll cost recovery is just a symptom of what it looks like to replace some of those mundane, everyday tasks with technology to automate not just time savings, but another very nice cherry on top, cost recovery savings too. Next up is Toyota of Laramie, one of our dealerships that is currently performing rental because they listened to their customers. Those customers had a need, whether they needed an SUV over the weekend for their outdoor outing or a vehicle for their mother-in-law to make sure she had her own ride around town for the weekend. Whatever that is, whatever that reason was, they decided to implement rental, and man, did it pay off. Literally, at over $3,300 in revenue per vehicle per month. And last but not least, we have Lexus of Stevens Creek. With the largest contract volume across our entire dealer base, they interacted with their customers over 26,000 times. That would have been a lot of paper. But their service manager, Monica Slezak, knew that the importance of digital contracts and leveraging technology to save her team time was imperative. And in 2021, they did just that at 273 days saved. I did the math. That's 9 months that her team got back with their very large customer base of their own. These dealerships all made improvements in the areas of process, technology, and people that unlocked time for them. Maybe it's just 15 to 20 minutes, but think about how much that can mean for our customers. We know across all of our dealers, it means a lot. It means employees with more time to succeed and customers with more time to live their lives. And we know for us, among our customers, it means a total of 52 years in time saved in the past year. So I'm going to leave you with this. I challenge you to find your own skip intro button in the name of customer obsession. Relentlessly fine-tune your processes, leverage your technology partners and the fresh ideas of your very own team. Elevate the people in your dealership that are really making the magic happen day in and day out. And most importantly, don't forget to celebrate. This industry is not for the faint of heart. It's one of the reasons that I am so proud to be part of the automotive industry today, even if it is from this very special corner of the room. I really appreciate all of you sharing this virtual room with me today. I really look forward to hearing from all of you. If you have questions or feedback, gut reactions, ideas that you want to chat through, please feel free to email our team at the email that you see below, F.O.R.T@dealerware.com. We're so happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if we don't know that answer, we are happy to learn together and find the right place to connect you to. So thank you again, Fixed Ops Roundtable. And of course, Ted, it's such a pleasure to be here.
Alexis, great job. And, it really hits home with some of the things you said, like the redundancies and, entering something into the DMS multiple times. I think everybody here can relate to that. So you've really, at Dealerware, streamlined the process for both the consumer and for the employees. So thank you so much. Alexis, again, if we want to reach out and learn more about what Dealerware does, how do we get a hold of you folks? How do we learn more?
Yeah, please, F.O.R.T@dealerware.com, and we'll make sure that we get you into the hands of just the right person.
All right, everybody, you'll be in great hands with Dealerware. They've been with the Fixed Ops Roundtable since the early days. So, Alexis, on behalf of all the first responders here, thank you so much for a great presentation this morning to kick us off.
Oh, the pleasure was mine. Thank you, Ted.
Alexis Cisneros from Dealerware here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Good people will fight if we lead them. And when it comes to leading teams, there are few greater Jedi Masters than Scott Simons from Carter Myers Automotive. So let's head out into the galaxy and learn how he's leading his teams to greatness.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it is a great honor to present the Roundtable with Scott Simons, who is the president and managing partner of Valley Dealerships as part of Carter Myers Automotive. Scott, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, Ted. Thank you for having me on, and what an honor it is to be here. I know that Liza and Brian Benstock and other people have been on here, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Again, it's my pleasure, our pleasure, Scott. We've heard so much about you from Liza and Brian, who were with us in the early days, and what you have built there at the Valley Dealerships as part of Carter Myers is very impressive. And I look forward to hearing about that. And you've actually got a pretty amazing story, from what I understand yourself.
Yeah, Ted, thank you. I started selling cars for Huddy Hyman. Let's go back. I'm originally from Southern West Virginia. I went to Bluefield State College, and from there got my master's from Radford University. Graduated in 6 years worth of school in 4. And I wanted to get in the auto industry. So my dad said, son, you're going to go sell cars. Why did you go to all this school? You could have went there straight out of high school. And I said, well, Dad, no one could ever take my education away. And I learned a lot. And I have a dream of owning car dealerships, and, in order for that dream to happen, I need to go and sell cars and work my way up. And it's been a wild journey. And then back in 2010, I got connected with Eliza and Carter Myers. I was a general manager of a store in the area, and a mutual friend got us together. And in 2010, I was a partner in my first store. So I started off in sales, finance, which was probably my expertise.
Yeah.
Then I went to general managers, from finance to general manager. And now I'm managing partner and president of the 5 dealerships here in Stanton, Virginia. So,
Scott, I got to agree with you that there is no substitute for selling cars and learning about it yourself. And I am with you on that all the way. And there's so much that you and I have learned, okay, by selling cars. And I like you, I came up to the sales side and the finance side and leasing, right? And it wasn't until my sales manager fired me one summer that the dealer said, "Don't leave, go back and I'll show you how to write service." And I got introduced to the service department. But the car business has everything. It has business, marketing, parts. It's got finance. It's got everything, Scott, in under one roof.
Yeah, I mean, we are the sales reps, which we train them on how to leverage social media. We train them on how to build their own brand, and it's a key component for them to be successful. But what we talk to our team about is hey, look, even if the auto industry is not what you want to do for the rest of your life, people are changing jobs at record paces. Some of it has something to do with COVID and people being at home and starting their own businesses. But we tell them, hey, this is an audition for whatever you want to achieve. So do it to the best of your ability and do it with excellence. And you're a business within our business. And I remember days, Ted, back when we would tell people, don't put your cell phone on your business card. Don't give your cell phone because we want to control everything. Now we teach them how to brand themselves, how to be when one of their people in their network think about anything automotive, anything, contact us. We're all about relationship sales. When we first started here, we tracked relationship sales based on how we trained them on how to leverage social media, predominantly Facebook, but now it's Instagram, TikTok, and all sorts of different platforms. We were selling about 5% relation. In other words, the team generated the sale, not the entity, not Honda, not Subaru, not Valley, not CMA. And now that we've trained and tracked that, 45% of our sales are generated by the sales associate, by building those relationships and using our training on how to leverage social media.
Isn't that amazing? And you know what? That also transcends to service and parts because that's all the relationship there, right? And it's all gone full circle, Scott. You told me there was a time in the industry, maybe not so long ago, where you made a change and had to make a change for yourself. And I know you're leading. How many employees, Scott, at your
175?
Okay, you got a lot of people, under you. Tell us about that if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, I think in life sometimes we can get so fixated on a goal, on accomplishing a goal, that at least I did, that I really lost who I was as an individual. So I was winning in business. So I've been involved with 4 different dealerships, and so in order to get the manufacturer's eye, even when I was in finance, I knew that I needed to sell a bunch of new cars. So I got really good relationships with the banks, and I really pumped up new car volume. And then people say, why is this dealership, this Saturn dealership or Pontiac GMC dealership selling so many new cars? Then when I went to meetings, I networked. And when I met people, I said, my dream is to, own a car dealership one day. Well, when you start pumping up the numbers, by getting good relationships and building value in new, people start to ask who you are, who your team is really. And I always would just deflect, hey, I've got a really good team. And I was working for a group before I came to CMA. I was winning in business, but I was losing as a husband. Number one, I was losing as a dad. I was not, I was going to attain a goal no matter what I had to do. My health, I ballooned up to 265 pounds, had high blood pressure, and came a point in my life where if I didn't make changes, I wouldn't be here today. And luckily, I have a wife. We've dated or been married over 30 years. And she said, listen, you're winning in business, but I don't even know who this person you've become. And I had a big wake up call, and I had to make a change, both by my health and my wife. And at that point, I realized some things. You can't be the only person that wins. So if I lead the Valley dealerships, I have to fit Valley within CMA. I need to, all the associates that are here, I need to find out what's important to them and help lead them. And then if I can help them get to their goals, they will help me and CMA get to our goals. And so I started really pouring into people around me and learning more about what's their professional and personal goals. I need to know what's important to them to help steer them. Or do they want to move up in the ranks? You know, some of the really good associates, they want to just, you know, they want to sell cars, and they want to operate and worry about themselves, not a team. And I really took a wake-up call, but that's where my career really took off, because I truly cared about other people and found out more about what they wanted to accomplish. And one of the things we do is we ask every associate for 3 of their personal and 3 of their professional goals. And then we meet with them quarterly on what are those goals. And then, you know, Ted, that day that I don't feel like making that prospect call, or I don't feel like going and, you know, picking up that piece of trash on the lot, I remember, hey, I've got these goals. I look down at my phone and know that, you know, my daughter going to college or my son going to college. That's why I have to pick up and make that phone call, because to be honest, not all of us are on top of our game every single day. I'm not either. I just don't want anybody to know it. They shouldn't be able to tell when they come in contact with me.
And you're right. It's always that one more phone call. I remember Lisa Copeland said the fortune is in the follow-up, Scott. It's always doing that one extra step, that one more time that, you know, all of us didn't feel, you know, at some point that we wanted to do it, but it's proven it makes the difference. And I'm fascinated by the goals. So you have them write the goals down, or they're written, or they're in their phone. Is that right?
Yeah. So what they do is their leader, because I'm really big in chain of command. I have an open door policy. Anybody can come meet with me, but you're not allowed just to come in and complain. I'm not a complaint department. The first thing I do is if I can do anything to help you, and typically it has to do with something personally, you know, they're having a problem maybe with their son or daughter, which, trust me, we've all been there, right? I've got an 18-year-old daughter. They maybe have an issue at home. They may need advice on finances. They may need advice on should they buy their first home. You know, I had an associate just bought their first home with us. He's worked with us for about 5 years, and he's 40 years old. And we're so excited. So we celebrated that in our mentorship. But they email their leader, 3 personal, 3 professional. They include me and my assistant, so that way I know. But the person that needs to sit down and go over it with them is their leader. You know, we have 5 different showrooms here. We need the leaders of the showrooms to be their point of contact. And then if they need me, they can come to me. And I want to be known as the person that if you have one phone call and you work for us, or you're in my network and you have one phone call and you can't call anybody else but that one person, call me. I've got those 3 o'clock calls in the morning. Do I like them? No, I don't. And I may tell them about it, but I will answer the phone. And if I don't answer the phone, I'll call them right back as soon as I possibly can. You know, so those goals are shared. And guess what? When you put your goal in writing and you profess it to the world, then that helps hold you accountable. You know, so that's something that we started to do. And then CMA, Liza, she adopted it, I think, a lot of the other dealerships. And it's just something that, you know, you got to figure out, you got to do life with people. You know, we're not just a car company. You know, we want to move people's lives forward. That's our associates. That's our community. That's, you know, everybody that we come in contact with, which is what Carter Myers Automotive Group is all about.
You know, it's interesting you said that. We had a panel of all technicians on the event yesterday, all techs, and with leaders as well on there. And as you know, there's been a great shortage of skilled technicians these days, right? I don't have to tell you. But what the technicians have told us repeatedly in event after event, that's not as much the money, but you know what? It's the culture of the organization I work for. It's the culture. Will they listen to me? Will they allow me to grow? Am I allowed to converse with other technicians? You know, so there's so much about the culture. And at Carter Myers, Scott, you know, the organization is known for your dealership's culture, because I think this leads to that. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, you know, it starts with, first, we've been around since 1924. You know, so, you know, it's been ingrained in our culture. We share profits with our employees. We're ESOP, so we have an employee stock option plan. So employees own 26% of our company. We take 10% of the net profit of the company, and we share it with the staff. We just had our meetings, and our average paid employee, they're not average, but average paid employee got $4,500 worth of stock, and our stock was up 20%. So that's investing in our people. We also have a partnership through FCA where we will send associates to college. So you could come work for us out of high school, sell cars, work on cars. We have a tech apprentice program, and we actually will pay for your training, and we will also pay to send you to college. Not only you, but anybody else that works for you. So we invest heavily in our employees, and I think that's a big part of our success and the big part of our growth now to over 20 dealerships in the state of Virginia and West Virginia. When I first started, I don't remember correctly, but I think we had 6 or 7 stores total, and I could be wrong there. And now we're up over 20 and growing. But it's because of people here just aren't numbers. I mean, Liza sends a handwritten letter to every associate. She has 1,000 associates. The letter is geared toward that individual. You know, I know every associate's name. I could take you around the dealership and tell you stories about every one. We also ask our general managers and leaders to come in through the back of the store. Come in through the back. That way you can say hi to the technicians when you walk through. And they also know we have that open door policy. I agree. Even us in the whole industry can do a better job of pouring into our technicians. I totally agree with that. I think we do better than most, but I think we can improve in that area also.
And you know what? It's not that long ago, Scott. You know, I think back even 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, we didn't used to hear that word culture at all in the dealership world. You know, that was kind of a new word. And now we hear more and more dealerships and groups like yours embracing that because you've done that all along. And like you just said, the relationship selling is a huge, it makes our job easier, you know, in keeping that customer and retaining it, than have to go out and conquest and get a new one all over again.
Yeah, think about it. 4 out of every 10, almost 5 out of every 10 customer purchases through associate that works with us. So your closing ratio is going to be higher. Typically, your margins are higher. Guess what? Besides teaching them on how to build social media, we've taken our advertising budget, not spent as much. Guess what we did with that money? We're giving it to the local community. So we do more sponsorships. We give it to the local high school. We called the local high schools and said, we want to donate money to your high school. People were like, what? I'm sorry, what's this for? What program needs money? Because we don't have to advertise as much. 1, because the inventories are lower. But 2, because we don't have to spend as much money in advertising, because we've trained our team to be an entity within the entity, within us. Another thing that we do, which I think I shared with you about culture, I have people that reach out to me. I'm very fortunate. I'm in a lot of networks. They'll say, Scott, will you mentor me? And I say, yeah, I will. I'll mentor you for free, but you need to come work for us. So we've literally had people, one gentleman left a parts and service director job and is a service manager here, and moved from Pennsylvania because he wanted me to mentor him. So he's in my mentorship class, which is optional. It once you sign up, you go through the whole program. It's about 20 associates on average. Okay. And we talk about health, finances. We talk about relationships. We did an exercise to see who could spend the least amount of money in 1 week. The difference between the 2 people in the group, one spent $600 in variable, has a family. One person spent $80 in variable expenses. So we asked, where did you spend money? And people said, I bought too many energy drinks, or, I just blew money on these certain things. We also had them write down what their credit score was. Wow. So write down what your credit score is. Then next week, go to Free Credit Report and bring a copy of your credit bureau. And then we gave $100 to whoever had the closest score. In other words, who knows what their score is? Then someone 2 weeks later says, hey, Scott, my score is up 40 points. So we pour much more than just a car dealership into people. And guess what that breeds? That breeds loyalty. I mean, people are loyal. If you go and, let's be real. A lot of schools aren't teaching people these things anymore. No. And, there's too much time spent on social media. People don't know about budgeting, about balance, about health, about counting your macros. We have groups that go and work out together now. We've got people that have lost 50 pounds that went through this mentorship. We meet every Monday at noon. They can eat lunch, but they can't come to my mentorship then go eat lunch, because we got work to do. So I am old school in some of those ways, but that mentorship it has paid dividends, and I do it myself. My assistant and I run it, and we meet and we talk about all sorts of things. My title, although we don't have titles in our name tag, mine says Inspire, says Scott Simons. We drop our titles, and this is not a CMA program. This is a Valley Scott Simons program, and you don't have to participate. We just ask our team in there to keep it within the walls of there, because we talk about private things, and if they don't feel comfortable about talking something, they don't. But this is something that I do to pour into our team, and I really don't want to talk about it because I get choked up. But we actually had someone that we saved a life through that mentorship. Literally saved someone's life through that mentorship.
Wow, wow, Scott, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. Every Monday. And you lead it. Wow. Here we are, the middle of May, and we're looking at, we've had an incredible last 2 years that nobody could even have imagined. If you wrote a book, they would have called it a work of fiction, right? Last question, Scott, looking out over the balance of this year, what advice would you give your fellow leaders, the dealers, managers, fixed ops directors, people watching this today? What advice would you give them, in their lives, in their dealerships, in their careers, looking forward into this year?
Ted, that's a great question. I think it has been a great 2 years. Obviously, we've had challenges going through COVID. We went through COVID and we didn't know what the heck was going on. And you give type A people that own businesses no power to be able to be able to do anything real quick. You've got to pivot and you've got to figure it out. But I will say this. I think in a lot of industries, customer service is not what it used to be. I think that some people have gotten average, some people have gotten complacent, and some people think that are doing better than what we are. Don't fall into that trap of being average. Just because the industry is, and because of inventory levels are down, let's not fool ourselves. Let's not let up. Let's not do the things we know to do to be successful. I do believe that now is the greatest time to separate yourself from all others by being on top of your game, taking care of your associates, pouring into your associates, and giving our customers the best experience ever. I think that this success has brought some arrogance. I think this success has brought some I think customer service has most definitely, in some areas, is not what it used to be. It's below average. So it's never been a greater time to shine than right now.
Wow. Great advice, Scott. Thank you so much for being with us today. Again, long time in coming, but on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Scott, thank you so much for your time with us today.
Ted, thank you so much. And a lot of the people that connected us, talk so very highly of you. And I appreciate you, allowing me to participate. And if there's anything I can never do for you, please reach out. But thank you so much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Great. We can't wait to have you back, Scott, and learn more. Scott Simons, everybody, from the Valley Dealerships, part of Carter Myers Automotive, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
that a bird? Is that a plane? Is it a spaceship? Wait, I think that's actually an electric vehicle. The automotive industry is certainly moving into a new era, and Jedi Master Les Silver will tell us what's in store for fixed ops departments across the galaxy.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. They say that when Les Silver speaks, people listen. And Les Silver has a great track record in our industry about bringing so much technology to the forefront in fixed operations. And we are honored again to have him here with us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Les, welcome back to the event.
Ted, thank you so much again for giving me the opportunity to participate. It's one of the highlights of my, well, almost every month now, it seems.
It does seem. And your theme today has been something that's been a recurring topic, and it's coming up more and more. So I'm excited to hear about how electric vehicles are going to impact service and parts operations. So Les, with that, the show is all yours.
Thanks, Ted. Yes, it's clear, Ted, that the EVs are coming and that they are going to have an impact. And I thought I'd share some thoughts on what I believe the impact is going to be. And I think it may be a little bit different than what you may have seen, heard, or read about from other sources. So let me jump right in. Most of the OEMs have made major commitments to EVs. And most of the projections suggest that by 2030, about half of the vehicles sold in 2030 will be EVs. What impact will this have on the dealership service and parts business? That's the main question. I hear a lot of quotes. So if one of them that I hear is dealership fixed absorption is going to drop dramatically. It'll be down to 25%. I hear that there's only half of the service work needed on an EV compared to an internal combustion vehicle. I hear that dealerships, they're not going to have enough work to be able to fully utilize their service facilities. So I often hear these quotes and read these stories and ask myself, well, is this true? Is this what we're looking for in the future? So let's take a look at it in more detail. There's three questions that I ask myself in trying to determine the impact. The first question is, what work is there that will be available on these vehicles? And what are the economics? How much will that cost? The second is, will the work actually be performed? Having it as a requirement is one thing. Having it actually bought by the customer is another. The third question is, who will do it? Will be the dealerships doing it, or will be the aftermarket doing it? And that obviously has, from the dealer's perspective, a major impact on what the impact will be from a revenue generation potential. So let's deal with these questions one at a time. First of all, there's different segments of work in the dealership's business. How will they be affected? Let's start with factory recommended maintenance. That's a big category of work. And that generally comes down to three things that might go into a maintenance package. One would be perform some form of an inspection on a component of the vehicle. The second would be just on a routine maintenance basis, time, mileage have passed. Now you're going to replace a part. And third is time, mileage has passed, and you're going to perform a service. And as an example, this came right out of the Ford Mustang Mach-E maintenance schedule right off their website. And they have two intervals for scheduled maintenance. They have the 10,000 mile and the 20,000 mile, and they rotate back and forth. And if you look at both columns here, you can see that, first of all, they're very, very similar, the content. In fact, there's only one item where there's a difference. Otherwise, what you would do at 10,000 miles is the same thing as you do at 20,000 miles. And that difference is that there would be a replacement of the cabin air filter on a 20,000 mile interval as opposed to the 10. But the other things, perform a service as an example, rotate tires is an example of you would on a routine basis perform a service, 10,000 miles, 20,000 miles, inspect tire wear is an inspect item, replace a cabin air filter is a do something item. And you can see that there is a fair bit of inspection in here. In fact, the vast majority of the content of this package, both these package, are inspect, 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 inspect. Now, you're inspecting with the expectation that at some point in time you might find something that's wrong. Otherwise, why would you bother inspecting it? Because things do wear out or things do break. And as a component of the inspection, you may end up with some repair. But the inspection itself is needed in pretty well all cases and is surprisingly lucrative on the EVs compared to what's going on in the internal combustion. And the example probably of the vehicles that have been on the road the longest is Tesla. And this was just published actually last week by RepairPal. According to RepairPal, average Tesla maintenance cost is $832 per year, comparing to an average of $650 for the other models that are being sold. So the maintenance component is significant and is a significant opportunity for, call it what it is, it's gravy work. It's work that requires probably a different level of skill to do the inspection because they'd be looking at things that they wouldn't be normally looking at on an internal combustion engine. But this isn't rocket science. And while there is less content in the maintenance schedule, because there is no oil change, there's no fluids to be replacing, which people seem to highlight by saying there's going to be very little to do. That's only one small component. The perceived expertise to take a look at an EV commands a higher price in the marketplace. So there is a significant chunk of work available through that bucket of scheduled maintenance. What about some of the other buckets? Well, supplemental maintenance services. One of our regular guests on the roundtable is BG, and I haven't heard that they're shutting down. So they're there, and they're going to be there, and they're a very capable and innovative company. And as time progresses, they will find other value-added services that will enhance the vehicle ownership experience, and they will be developed for EVs. I'm very confident in that. Not sure exactly what they're going to be, and spoke with one of the BG distributors who was saying, no, they're working on stuff, not sure exactly what it's going to be yet, but there will be a category of work which would be sort of supplemental maintenance services that will be offered. Replacing things that wear out, wear items. The ones you think of most, Dave Boyle will certainly chime in here, tires, brakes, will be needed, but for a different reason. The friction material on brakes isn't used nearly as often in an EV as it is in a internal combustion engine, so they won't wear out nearly as fast as they would otherwise. But there are some corrosion elements of brakes that have to be taken a look at least inspected, that may result in a need to replace. Wipers, the battery. We haven't got to the point yet where people are being asked to shell out 13, 15, 20, $25,000 for a new battery system. And it'll be interesting to see just how that gets handled. What is available to consumers to almost help finance the redoing of the electrical system in that vehicle at a huge expense. But that is a opportunity for the dealers. A lot of the things that will be needed to correct will be done through reprogramming of software. And whether that be in dealership or increasingly over the air remotely, there'll be more and more in that category of reprogramming work that'll be done. Some of it will be covered by warranty. Some eventually will be covered by customer pay. But that's a increasing category of work that will certainly add to the revenues of the dealership as it moves forward. Fixing stuff. When you do the inspection, you'll find that things are often broken. There are fewer mechanical systems, but there is an air conditioning system, there's a suspension system, there's a lot of systems around still in the vehicle, and they will break, and that will be an opportunity. But more of the systems will be electronics, and the diagnosis and the replacement of knowing which one to replace, and the reprogramming that goes along with that requires greater skill and a greater parts cost as well. So that's another segment that will be significant. And finally, it's been my view that at some point in time, dealers are going to get serious about the aesthetics of the vehicle with appearance or functionality or performance enhancement accessories. And that will become more and more a part of the dealer service business. It's a major opportunity that's untapped, except for after the initial vehicle sale. A lot of accessories often get sold as part of the sale, but then the dealers kind of get out of the business and leave it to others to come in and go after that business. I think the dealers will see that there's more opportunity there that will take them in that direction. So is there services to be performed question suggests to me that there's going to be lots of services to be performed. And that tied into the questions 2 and questions 3. First, will it be performed? Just because it's needed. I mean, cars have had scheduled maintenance. Cars have had owner's manuals that are full of things that need to be done that doesn't. The Car Care Council estimates that currently there's over $50 billion a year in needed services that go unperformed. That's enormous. Why? Well, it's primarily the result of lack of appreciation by the consumer of the need and value of those services, combined, quite frankly, with can they afford it? That 50 billion, there isn't just sitting around, waiting to be spent in this category. It's a choice to spend it here or spend it there. Will that be different for the EV? If you can design a program that educates the customer on the needed work, and the customer's demographic, I think, favors protecting the vehicle. The vehicles are going to be more expensive. The owners of these vehicles are going to have, I think, a more I want to take care of it attitude towards the vehicle. I think there's a greater chance that a larger percentage of that 50 billion on the EVs won't be there, that the work is going to get done. And it's going to get done because people are going to have a mindset to want to take care of their vehicles. Kind of going back to when, the Asian imports entered the market, when, it was just the domestics, back in the early 60s, the domestics, they were the only game in town. The Asian imports came and didn't have the breakdowns, but they had a maintenance schedule, which they really were able to convince the consumer was necessary. Now that's changed over time as it's become more commoditized. But I think that we're going to find, at least in the early stages, the EVs are going to be thought of as being special, and people are going to want to take care of them. Who will do it? Will it be the dealership or the aftermarket? Well, Currently, the dealers have, depending on where you look at, 25-ish%. I've seen 22 at the low end, 30 at the high end, but 25% of the service market is going back to the dealers. That means that 75% of the work of the vehicles on the road have been captured by the independent aftermarket. Will the dealers get a larger share of the EV service and parts business? I believe they will. First of all, I think it'll be more challenging for the aftermarket to make the investment in tools and training necessary to service the broad range of EVs. I think they're going to pick their spots carefully, but they aren't going to have the capability to be across the board competitive in the servicing of the EVs. The dealers will have the head start. We've talked many times about, the shame it is that 75% of the business goes to the aftermarket when every vehicle was put on the road by the dealer. And they then abdicated that market and left it to the aftermarket to take the lion's share. I think they have an opportunity now to have this head start. They're selling the vehicle, they have a one-on-one relationship with the customer, and they have the ability to be able to have a conversation about what's it going to take to properly take care of the vehicle. They'll have that head start in educating the customer on the needed services and why the dealer is the place to get it done. And finally, I think, and you'll see it, customers will have the impression that the dealership is the place that's the preferred service provider by the OEM. In fact, this comes right out of the Tesla's website. Damages or failures caused by maintenance or repairs performed by non-Tesla certified technicians are not covered by the warranty. And that's a perception, in some extent it's a reality, but the tendency is going to be for there to be more of the work that's going to go back to the dealers. So the dealers are likely to get a significantly larger share of the EV service and parts market. So in the internal combustion engine market, you've got a fair bit of work that's necessary, maybe a little bit more than in the EV, but you get a lot of it that isn't performed, and you get a lot of it that's going elsewhere. What we can conclude is that take a look at dealers' revenue. It's a multiple, available work times percentage work performed times percentage work performed at the dealership is your formula for your dealership's revenue. The dealers have the opportunity to do it right, to educate the customer from the time of sale on what's needed to protect the investment in the vehicle, and aggressively market those services when they're due. When that 10,000 miles rolls around on the Mustang EV, are you in front of the customer saying, hey, this is important, now's the time, come on in and get it done? That retention focus is an opportunity. Dealers had this opportunity before. They had the opportunity years ago. They could have shut the aftermarket out. Instead, they took the attitude, more work than we can handle, we don't care. It really wasn't the top of the mind, and they blew it before. Hopefully they won't do it again. Hopefully they'll take that opportunity to have that one-on-one conversation and get that retention level up, get the customer buying what's needed and doing it at the dealership. And instead of they're saying, we won't have enough capacity, we're going to be back to a situation where we're going to have to grow our service business to accommodate it. My point of view.
Les, I remember you telling me a while back that early in your career, you were a numbers guy. You started off going over the numbers, okay, in business. And I look at that formula here that says dealer revenue generated equals available work times percentage work performed times percentage work performed at the dealership. That's the formula right there. And you've been putting these formulas together, all your life. And now here we have a formula, to look at this new opportunity, if you will, and it is on EVs, and what will, be another chance for the dealers to take back our industry.
It's almost a new ball game. You watch the way the OEMs are approaching the sale of EVs. Ford, as kind of split the franchise in two. and with EV as being part of their go-to-market strategy and still some internal combustion, you have a chance now to redefine the service experience. Don't blow it.
Great advice, Les Silver. And Les, thank you for all you do for our industry. I hear more and more every month. It's like a snowball going downhill with Dynatron software, with what you're doing, for our dealers. And I'm sure, Les, that you will be on the forefront with helping our dealers here, as more and more EVs come into the marketplace with, with pricing and doing it properly.
Yep, I certainly will.
Everybody, if you want to reach out to Les Silver and Dynatron, his information is scrolling at the bottom here. And I encourage you to do that. A lot of our dealers use Dynatron and are very impressed with what has happened to their industry and to their business. So I encourage you to do that. And Les Silver, thank you so much for your insights. And I think you've answered a lot of questions, and you've also opened a lot of minds as to, where we're headed in our industry. So on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, thank you again.
You're very welcome, Ted.
Les Silver from Dynatron Software here this morning at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
At Dynatron Software, we place our clients' revenue growth at the core of our corporate culture. There are only three choices to that end: bring in more clients, sell more to each client, or strategically optimize pricing. We begin by optimizing price while positively impacting customer retention. This is facilitated by a combination of complex data analysis, software, and coaching. Very much like vAuto for your service operation. While complex, it is the fastest and most sustainable way to drive large profit increases, and bears perpetual focus and modification. In every other major industry, pricing is determined by complex strategy and industry experts. CPAs, MBAs, business analysts, advanced modeling, and analytics. This looks far different in automotive and leads to a significant profit gap in over 95% of the dealers.
Dynatron has a team of specialists who are going to focus on ongoing performance coaching, comparing market analysis data, and optimizing a dealer's warranty labor and or parts rate increases. Dynatron can also train a dealer's service advisor staff on best practices such as creating the perfect RO. These approaches, as well as many others, will allow a dealership management team and advisor staff to operate with confidence and increase overall customer satisfaction. After all, the mission statement of Dynatron Software is to make our clients a shipload of money.
The force is strong with this one. Up next is Julie Douglas with Dealer Pay.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And we'd like to talk today about a better way for dealers to accept payments. And we all know that quick and efficient payments mean both happy customers and happy employees. And I'll take it one step further, happy managers as well. And let's face it, processing transactions should be easy. Today, I'm very honored to introduce to you Julie Douglas, who's the president of Dealer Pay. Julie, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Glad to be here.
Julie, again, great honor to have you. And, a great honor to have this topic to talk about today. It's something that we have really not gone through in any detail at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. So before we do, give us a little background. Tell us, what is Dealer Pay?
Sure. So I started Dealer Pay just under 10 years ago. It is both a payments and point of sale solution for dealers, specifically for dealers. We encapsulate everything, every way they take payments in each of the departments, and help them maximize their customer retention, help them increase productivity, and help them save money.
And I don't know that there is anything else like that specifically for dealers. Julie, tell us, what's your background?
So, like I said, I started Dealer Pay 10 years ago, but I started in the industry just over 22 years ago. I started just working, for a large payments provider, and it happened to be the second merchant that I signed was a Nissan dealership in St. Louis. So I liked the way it worked. I liked the volume. I liked the energy. I liked that they had multiple businesses under one rooftop. So I just kept going in that vertical.
Wow.
I had managed to sell probably about 250 rooftops in about 10 years. So it was a great deal for me until it came down to the industry needed something better. They needed something specific. And unfortunately, my existing provider was not, going to do that. So I took it upon myself to sort of step out of the comfort zone and start my own business called Dealer Pay, and side by side, my own software platform.
Let's go back just a minute or so. You mentioned you started with that one dealer, that first dealer.
Yes.
What prompted you, Julie, from there to see the opportunity for retail dealers?
Well, it both challenged me and made me excited about the opportunity because, traditionally dealers just use standalone hardware. They just assumed that it cost X. They had no idea that there were other facets to payment acceptance and transaction processing that could benefit the business. It was more of a commodity. So I saw a lot of opportunity in there. And from there, like I said, it was one Nissan store out of a group of 13. And I managed to get the rest of the group, and then really hustled in St. Louis and Illinois and so on. So.
Wow, you are the sales lady extraordinaire. Now, our industry, as you know better than anybody, is ripe for disruption. Okay, and there's disruption going on all over the car industry.
Yes.
What were the customer service model, the challenges that you were hoping to solve when you first began integrating this technology into fixed ops, specifically service and parts and body shop?
Sure. So, a lot of people don't realize that the payment is really the last experience the customer has at the dealership, whether it's in person or whether it's remote, it is the last experience. So we built a lot of functionality into our platform to, offer customers multiple ways to pay, make sure how they were paying was extremely secure and fast, and, treat them how they want to be treated. Not everybody's going to come in the dealership. Not everybody wants to. So we provide dealers with the opportunity to offer those options to their customers, all while making it extremely productive for their users, specifically in fixed ops, to maintain business throughout the day.
And I would imagine that your solution, not just being efficient but being quick, also
Yes.
is of great benefit to the managers out there, and that it's a dealership is not just dealership specific, but fixed ops specific also.
Sure. So, we want to make sure that, we, process transactions as fast as possible. We don't want to generate any lines. We don't want customers to be held up for any reason at all, especially in today's world where we have to be a little bit more nimble with capturing that payment. Dealers don't want to have to mess around with, depositing checks or waiting for funding. So we have made really all of our processes so efficient that, it eliminates any of those challenges.
Wow. I know firsthand that service lane experience has been, Julie, it's been pretty consistent over the years, and again, ripe for disruption. Give us some examples. What best practices would you recommend to our dealer and manager audience as we all continue to innovate within this space of fixed ops?
Sure. So, when I first started in the industry, it was very typical to see a cashier style environment. And, we still see several of those today. The concept of the service advisor doing the payment acceptance was somewhat new. And believe it or not, even today is still somewhat new to some dealers. But offering the option to do that easily with our solution, with options with hardware, et cetera, to make it fast, in my opinion, is going to be the best for the customer experience. They don't have to wait in line for the cashier and then get their bill and realize they don't understand something on it and then go back to the advisor. They can do all of that with that single touch point at the dealership. So, when the survey comes out, they're likely going to be more satisfied with the experience with just, one contact.
You're right. Going back a number of years, that was considered fairly new to have the advisor doing all the cashiering as well. And and you see more and more of it now. Yet you're right. There are still dealerships who rely on that cashier. So I would imagine your model works with either scenario.
Yes, it absolutely does. And again, we even focus on that customer that doesn't want to come inside the dealership. We offer them several ways to pay with, text, email, et cetera. So, it's making their experience the way they want it as opposed to how the dealership wants it.
And Julie, not just mobile service, but service pickup and delivery now has become very prevalent and has been a big discussion here at this event. Talk to us a little bit about how this would work. Elaborate on that if you could, because those are huge growing areas within the fixed ops space.
Sure. So, obviously with COVID, there was the whole concept of contactless payment. And obviously it was out way before, but it became, a huge topic for dealers to be able to not only allow their customers to pay in-house contactless with, the NFC technology, using their mobile wallet or any kind of card with NFC. That was huge, but also just the concept, like you mentioned, pickup and delivery, as well as just folks that, don't want to come in at all. So solutions we offer would be, mobile in the sense where the dealership can send a hosted payment link, very secure. They could send it via text or email, very fast transaction process. And then additionally, mobile solutions. Bringing out a tablet or a phone to that customer to get that swipe, chip, or tap on the device.
You're going to laugh because it was 2 years ago, a friend of mine who's a dealer in the New Jersey area said, Ted, I think I have the solution how we can do touchless and contactless point of sale transactions. And he showed me a video where they had taken literally a wooden stick and put that swipe at the end of a stick. With
That's hilarious.
And I said, John, it's got to be better in this day and age. So
absolutely.
Give me some feedback from some of your clients, from your dealers. What are they saying? And ultimately, what are the consumers saying?
So the dealers really like it. Obviously anything we do that, emphasizes modern technology at first is going to be, not well received until they actually see it and they realize how actually easy it is. And then they start seeing the reaction from their customers. Their customers really like these options, which is going to make, them obviously happier and come back, but it's also going to make that advisor's job a little easier and faster. Some of the transactions they were traditionally doing involved a lot of paperwork and, put this receipt there and the RO there. This way, it just kind of combines everything and streamlines the process. So everyone's going to be happy, in fixed ops all the way up to the office.
If you don't mind, how do most dealer clients find out about you and learn about what it is that you do? How did they learn about Dealer Pay?
So I've been very fortunate to be endorsed by several state associations, specifically in the Midwest. But believe it or not, I get a lot of dealer referrals and references. A lot of these guys through 20 groups or just, buddies in the space have, been very generous to drop my name. And of course, I'm quick to get in touch with them. And typically it's a very simple process. See what they're doing today, see what we could do on our end, and see if it makes sense. And a lot of times it does. So
I think that your modern technology today, interacting with the phone, okay, the way consumers today all have this phone in their hand, employees have this phone in their hand. How do you see that evolving and continuing to roll out and affect the fixed op space?
I think it's going to be absolutely necessary for dealers to have some sort of e-commerce or online platform at their dealership, whether it be, kind of like we talked about before with a hosted payment link. If I'm a service customer and the dealership sends me a link, I can click it on my mobile phone and populate the data with my mobile wallet if I'm savvy. And then within seconds, I'm done. That can even include a copy of the RO and a signature that's digital for the dealer to retain. So I think mobile is huge. I think that there's going to be some additional technology coming out here shortly that actually ties payment information to a mobile phone, which is going to make things a lot more secure and even give opportunities for lower interchange rates on specific cards. So that's exciting in my business. So, ultimately it's, let's provide some technology to help things be, more efficient, but now we're doing it to save money. So.
Wow. Julie, if you don't mind, and I did not ask you this question anytime prior, what % of your business is dealership and dealership based of all the business that you do?
99%. I have a few standalone body shops and a couple of repair shops out there, but everybody else is either a franchise dealer or an independent.
I don't think anybody can say that. And let's talk real quick about the body shop and collision center. What benefits can you offer them as well, on top of what we're talking about here for the dealers?
Well, it's really the same model. If the dealership doesn't have a body shop, then they work with one, right? So
Sure.
The body shop is going to have the same experience that dealers do with the convenience of payments. They do take, insurance checks for a lot of the down payments, but sometimes and a lot of times there's a balance. So, we make it convenient for that customer to pay while they're getting their car fixed, whatever kind of issue they had at the body shop. Very similar to, any other department in the dealership, to be honest. So it works well.
So, Julie, in closing, let me ask you this. I mentioned disruption. The whole industry is going through various stages of disruption. I think that this is probably the next frontier, if you will, for disruption. What advice do you have for dealers, for the balance of this year who are looking at that transaction, the way it's done, the speed in which it's done, the convenience that it's done for the consumer, both online and remotely? What advice would you give dealers?
I would say, embrace technology. A lot of times, I get that response, if it's not broke, don't fix it. In this case, you may not really understand what's actually broken. So I would embrace new technology that's going to make things more convenient, more secure, because, compliance is a big thing. And, just make sure that whoever you're working with, specifically to payments, really knows your industry and what challenges you have and your objectives to, increase customer retention and more, and I think, if that's, encouraged and, pushed down to the staff, they're going to see some really, big noticeable improvements. So.
All right. Great stuff, Julie. All right. How does our audience, our dealers, our managers, if they want more information on Dealer Pay and what you can do for them specifically, how do they get a hold of you? You
can contact me directly. We have a website with a contact us page at dealer-pay.com. You can email me directly at julie@dealer-pay.com or call my mobile 314-578-3142.
And it looks like that's the information that we have in the scroll down below. So, and you know what? It's actually, Julie, very refreshing that you are basically 100% in the retail dealership and automotive space, that, you know, you can relate to all the pain points that dealerships and managers have. So, Julie, I'd like to invite you back to continue this conversation at the next Fix Ops Roundtable. And I invite our audience to learn more about what Julie Douglas and what DealerPay can do for you. Julie, on behalf of the Fixed Ops community and the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Ted.
Hi there, Julie Douglas, DealerPay's President and Sales Lady Extraordinaire. Here at DealerPay, each day, our goal is to help your dealership exceed your customers' expectations. We help make the buying process quick and easy, thus increasing CSI scores and customer retention. Our point of sale solution helps to maximize daily productivity and increase revenue and profit margins in each department. We pay attention to even the smallest details for every transaction, helping your dealership to grow long-term customer relationships. Using our modern technology, DealerPay allows you to offer your customers 3 times as many ways to pay. We cater to all customers in all scenarios, helping your dealership provide a fast and secure payment experience. Dealership problems require dealership solutions, and we recognize what it takes to make your dealership successful. We're advocates for dealers and recommended in the industry. We want to work with you and help you grow your business. Call, text, or email us today for a consultation. DealerPay, fast, organized, secure.
Here in the galaxy, mobility is a must. Traveling through hyperspace ain't like dusting crops, and future dealerships will find themselves more profitable by adapting to a mobile service model. Here to tell us all about it are Jedi Masters, Ed Roberts, Mark Mickens, and Robert Stage.
Fixed operations continues to evolve. We've seen a lot of that here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable these last few years, and it's time for a discussion about mobile service. And we have brought together the best of the best. That includes Ed Roberts from Ford Lincoln, Mark Mickens from the Lithia Mercedes-Benz of Paramus Group, and Robert Stage of Stage One Mobile. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, thanks for having us. Good to see you.
Hey, in case anybody doesn't know who you gentlemen are, Ed, I'll start with you. I'll have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your organization and your mobile operation.
I'm Ed Roberts, Chief Operations Officer here at Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, Florida. We currently run, just got my 5th mobile truck in on our way to 11. My next one to arrive will be our tire van / vehicle. So with my mobile vehicles, that gives me 103 stalls. I have 98 here that I can't move very easy, and then 5 that I can roll around. With that, I've got 88 technicians working in it. So it's a little bit of a size of an organization, but it is layered and flows well. And mobile, if we're not doing mobile yet, this is a panel to listen to, because mobile is the opportunity that's in front of us.
Wow.
Without building structure.
Very impressive. And Ed, when did you get your first mobile unit? When did that happen, if you don't mind?
We got our first branded mobile unit in December of 19. So 4 months before COVID.
Wow. Well, I had a chance to spend time with Mark Mickens, and I know that Mercedes-Benz of Paramus is big into the mobile game as well. Mark, tell us a little bit about your organization, and mobile.
So I'm the operations manager at Mercedes-Benz of Paramus in Paramus, New Jersey.
And Mark, full disclosure, since I am a customer of your dealership, I do get your emails about mobile service. And I tell you, I read every one. So you are not shy about promoting it within your customer base, Mark.
No, we really made a concerted effort to heighten the awareness of our customers. It is the number one piece that we send out, and our click-through rates are usually about triple of anything else that we do. Because our advertising company comes in and goes over all those metrics with me every month, and it just anything having to do with mobile service, I think piques people's interest, and they at least take a look and get to our website and see what it's all about.
Wow. Robert Stage, I first met you when you were with the Germain organization there in Ohio. And tell us about yourself and your operation.
Sure. Thanks. I'd like to first thank Ted for bringing this to everybody. Thank Ed for, taking time out, and thank Mark also. I know this is difficult sometimes, especially in those high volume situations, to be able to get some time to come to actually be on camera. My name is Robert Stage of Stage 1 Mobile Diagnostic and Auto Repair. I service the greater Columbus area, so I pretty much go just about anywhere in the state if someone needs me to come there. I do basically diagnostic work, mostly scan tool work and lab scope work, but I also do repair also, and anything that basically can be done at someone's home, if it's a software update or if it's brakes or any types of maintenances. Certainly, I perform those right there on the site, and typically do between 4 to 5 appointments a day. And I do run 7 days a week and do appointment only on Saturday and Sunday. So wow. It's growing. I started just inside of the pandemic, of course. There was a lot of chaos that happened at the beginning of it. I was in between jobs. And of course, since I'd been a technician for 22 years, I just picked up and kind of filled a gap where I seen that dealerships was having a lot of difficulty doing. They had started opening up, going and picking vehicles up, concierge service, bringing them back and repairing them and then delivering them again. But there wasn't very many, and there still isn't very many, that do what you gentlemen and I myself do, which is go and be a concierge to the customer, to the client. So very excited to be on here, Ed, or very excited to be on here, Ted. Thanks a lot.
Robert, thank you so much. How do clients find out about you and that you have this service available?
Sure. Currently, right now, the largest one that comes to me is all through Facebook. I use, if you go to Facebook and you just type in at Stage 1 Mobile, all one word with the numeric 1, I'll pop up. My business page will pop up. In 2 years, I've garnered about 700 likes so far. Still carry a 5-star rating. Everyone seems to be extremely happy, of course, with being convenient and being able to come to them. It's difficult sometimes for people if they have an EPC light coming up on their dash intermittently, or if they've got a check engine light, it's difficult sometimes for them to take the time to take the vehicle, drop it off. They might need a loaner vehicle. There's a lot of stuff that I cut out that brings them that convenience, that they can actually use me. So that's pretty much the easiest way to get to me is through Facebook.
You three gentlemen are considered leaders in the industry in mobile. So there's a lot of folks paying attention to this right now, and not just fixed ops and service managers, but dealers and general managers. Ed, tell us what prompted you to get in, and what is probably the most surprising thing that you've learned and seen so far?
Well, we got into mobile service back in 15, servicing fleet accounts, going to them and minimizing their downtime. We was doing that with vehicles, company-owned vehicles, not necessarily branded vehicles. And we decided there's a good opportunity for us to do some advertising with branding a vehicle, and then expanded it into retail as well. So we planned for that and ordered 2 vehicles. And one of them got here in December of 2019. The second one got here March 11th of 2020. So the day before COVID became a worldwide shutdown. So timing couldn't have been more perfect. Because that gave us the opportunity to take it from just being a fleet piece to being something that we can introduce to our retail customers. Because at that point in time, everybody was afraid to leave their homes, and we was able to come to their home and do whatever was needed. And they could stay in the comfort of their deal and not have to interrupt their day or take the kids to a babysitter or whatever else. And it's just continued to compound from there. And every time I add a truck, it stays busy from day one. We still do not advertise on our website, simply because it's full without it. And if I put it out there, if I offer something I can't deliver on, then I'm really letting people down. So we're continuing. We're on our way to 11 trucks. Hopefully by the time we get there, we will be able to put it on our website and allow you to schedule an appointment with us. But right now, it is someone that's been exposed to it from some of the things that we do. We'll go out and put SOP parts on. We'll go to used car dealers and handle recalls. Would take care of fleets, missed appointments. Customers called in and made an appointment, and for whatever reason they couldn't come in. Well, rather than try to reschedule and break up their day again, let's just go to them and take care of them if it's something we can do out there. And then that becomes the repeat business for mobile, and it just continues to compound.
Ed, when did you realize that you had a potential game changer there with mobile? How long did that take?
Well, we knew that it was an opportunity for us to grow into, especially with BEVs coming, but COVID just made it was the opportunity for it to be accepted. And when it hit, it was just an instant acceptance, because we've always told customers to come do business with us on our terms, and we've never went and done business with them on their terms. And COVID says, hey, if you don't think outside the box right now, you might not be around long. So we all had to adjust and make something happen. And instantly the acceptance of it was through the roof. I would say we knew it was there, but it was pushed along and set on fire by having some constraints that we all went through with the pandemic.
Mark, you are very close to ground zero when this whole thing went down 2 years ago. I mean, Paramus, New Jersey, you're right there in the mix of it. You know, that may not be New York, but the people who work in New York live in your community.
Correct.
They drive by your impressive facility every single day. And I know you saw this thing happen. I mean, firsthand more than anybody. Take us through that, and then what happened with your mobile business then?
Well, I'm very similar to Ed. I was a Ford dealer at one time, and I was big in fleet. I had a huge fleet business at my former store, and when I got here, I do have a magnificent facility that I'm proud to come to every day. However, it's parking lot challenged. And one of the biggest opportunities that we had really in this area was the Sprinter business. And we started to build the Sprinter business, and, we can only fit so many in the shop and so many in the lot. And the extension of mobile, I had touched on some mobile service opportunities late in 2017 when I was still a Ford dealer. Okay. And, I just really always had it in the back of my mind that it was going to be futuristic when it came to EVs. My next door neighbor owns a Tesla, and he never brings his car to the shop. They come to his house. So I kind of, see that happen all the time. I guess I got scared into it a little bit that, if cutting edge in a luxury brand, we better start really thinking about it. But it really started out as a fleet business with Sprinter. We kind of stumbled upon it, more expanding. The next phase was we made it part of our wholesale parts business because there isn't a component on a Mercedes-Benz that doesn't need to be reprogrammed or programmed to the car after an accident. And we found a whole, another pool of work on local body shops on going to them to install a part and program it for them during, assembly. So that's how it started. And we started that and had that planned before the pandemic. But we really were ground zero for the pandemic. Bergen County, New Jersey, where my store is, was one of the first counties that actually shut down.
Yeah.
And, on the way back up, one of the things that kept us going was, pickup and delivery of people's cars. But then we said, well, we have these trucks. Why don't we just start offering service to people while they're home? And it just grew from there. And then, we're on our second and third visit to some customers now that just, will probably never come here unless they have to,
Mark, how, you are in, again, the geography, you're in a prime location in New Jersey on Route 17, right by, not far from Route 4.
Mm-hmm.
And, not far, as you said, from the George Washington Bridge. You've got that great corridor of traffic as well. Mark, how big do you see this getting?
I hope to be, in the range where Ed is. Again, I know that some, you really can't put a number on how many trucks you're going to have. There's different geographic. Ed and I are dealing with two different completely things. Using some of the software we use with My Karma, my guys can just get places faster and touch more people in a day that maybe, Ed can with the geography that he deals with, or maybe what Robert deals with, as being a single point owner. We're in tight corridors where, all roads converge right around my store. So it's really easy for me to get to a lot of places in a really quick manner. So how big it gets, I mean, we don't have a limit on how many trucks we would add. And I'm sure futuristically, we're definitely going to add one this year to give us 5. But, the further out you go in this area also, then you do start running into some traffic problems that, the return on investment starts to decrease, 25 miles from here, from me.
Mm-hmm.
So, the way I operate is in my 25 mile square area footprint. There's enough for me that I can grow inside of that. And also, my truck count might not be as large as Ed's, but my repair order count probably will be. Just on frequency.
Wow. Robert, tell us about your business and give us your perspective on mobile and where it's headed.
Sure thing. It's definitely the future. I've had a couple different conversations with other people on LinkedIn. I did have a phone conversation with the other day, and we spoke for about an hour. And, I've been doing some research into it also. And Volvo has now come out and they're doing mobile service. They're going to start coming to people's houses. They're going to start doing software updates like Mark was talking about with, Mercedes. They're going to start doing that with Volvo clients. So it's only going to continue to grow. That concierge or that, convenience factor is definitely going to be the driver of all of it. So it's definitely going to get pretty big. And like I said, even in my own business, I'm watching as a single owner, like Mark said, I just get phone calls all day long. I get Facebook messages. I get text messages because I do the social selling that I've been taught through all the training that I've taken. And you end up becoming, one with these clients, and people continue to purchase stuff from you. I mean, it's literally every day that I'm talking to somebody that I've dealt with in the past. I've done about 500 ROs in 2 years, going on 2 years now. And I've probably had, 3 or 4 interactions with some people, and, positive interactions, not something where something went wrong and you had to go back and fix it. But these are, new issues that they want to go ahead and repair on their vehicle that I help them, consulted them into, here's what's, prioritized and here's what you can do next. And, you give them those cues, and people they just set up. They want to have someone that they can trust. And, I think I bring that to them too, because there has been issues in our industry, either on the aftermarket side or in the dealership side, where people have these trust issues. But if they're able to talk to the person that's going to work on their car, and you can talk plainly with them, and you can communicate well, there's nothing that they will not purchase from you. If they trust you and if they like you, that's the basic thing. So it's going to get bigger. There's no other way that it's going to go. It'll definitely grow.
Robert, once you get a customer to have you come out mobile and service their vehicle, is there a pretty good chance that you're going to win that customer over and they're going to want that type of service again?
I usually have a conversion rate of around 80%. So in business, 80% is pretty high. I run almost $500 per RO right now, over the 2 years. So in the aftermarket, if you could get $300 per RO in the aftermarket, you were doing really well. Dealerships, according to brand, $400, $350 per RO is pretty good. That's pretty good money. So I definitely get them to want to use that business, and they already want to use that because they don't want to have to. Like I said, you have to drive to the dealership, you have to speak to somebody, you have to go through the entire process. Where I cut most of that process completely out. There's no service director, there's no service manager, there's no service advisor. You talk to the technician that's going to work on the vehicle.
Well, a lot to be said for that. Ed, what do you think?
You don't lose sight of it either, and that's one of those things that helps build trust. Is you take it to a dealer, you spend your time going there, then you talk to an advisor, then it goes somewhere and you don't even know where it goes, and all of a sudden
Right.
They're coming back asking for money, and you brought it in for what you think may be a simple light, and now we're asking for whatever it is, and you don't see it. But when you're there and they see what you're going through, no matter how simple they thought it was to begin with, they now understand the process that's going through it. And you don't have to sell. It's showing is selling. And we talk about how much video does for us.
Mhm.
Well, live is true video. And so when they see it live, it takes that out of the equation. They never lose sight of it. So the trust factor never goes away. And as long as you have a good communicator out in the field doing it, then it continues to build and compound itself.
Wow.
Definitely.
What do you think, Mark?
Well, both points are spot on. I mean, I think also for us, it's been a real big customer service piece for us in a positive way with a luxury brand customer also there. Listen, we all have, product issues. We all have sometimes, a comeback issue and things like that. And if you can, talk to a customer and say, listen, hey, I'll send my truck over to your house and we'll see what we can do for you there. It definitely changes the conversation from a customer service standpoint. If you can go over and fix maybe what is a little problem post-service or a little problem before the customer ever comes in, we've solved a lot of problems that way. And it shows up in our surveys too, by the way. You can read it from a customer satisfaction standpoint, on the surveys that we get back that mention, hey, they came to my house, fixed my, I didn't have to go to the dealer. It's a big thing. I want to touch on one point though that Ed just made subtly, is that you have to have the right people out on the road doing this too. Robert's everything from start to finish. Who you put out to deal as a customer facing person and work on the car, it's a big choice, and you have to make sure that you make the right choice, because it has to be somebody that can fix cars and be technical and also be customer facing. So it's it took us a little while to go through that to make sure that we have the right people that are out there interfacing with our customers.
So, Mark, it sounds like that would be one of the challenges unique to mobile, okay, to making sure you got
That's
that.
100%. I think it's, you can plan the best plan, but if you have the wrong person going out and knocking on the door and saying, I'm here to work on your car, it's going to be a problem, So that was one of the biggest, not an obstacle, but when we were putting our base plan together, and I'm the guy throwing out all the problems to the people I was planning this with, is so who are you sending and what are we doing? Because Ed and I've been around dealerships forever. There's a couple guys in your shop that you're not sending out to somebody's house, right, Ed? I mean, let's just face it. I mean,
They're huge. They're big technical guys, but yeah, not somebody we'll talk to.
Right.
A customer.
So it's a little bit of both. So we've actually, we interviewed some people in house, and I think we have 4 guys that I think we have the right 4 guys. So says our record so far. So we got lucky.
Wow. And you mentioned the survey. Greg Penske was on the show just recently, and he said that when he looks through the customer surveys at his dealership group and at Longo Toyota, he looks at the comments. That's what he reads. And he's interested in what those comments are from guests. Are you seeing comments about that as you just mentioned on mobile?
Yeah, that's where we know it's really working. We would have somebody that we know that maybe we didn't do the right thing by when they were here, but we go to the house, we make the correction, and then it shows up as a good survey with the comment, the fact that we came and fixed a small problem. Because sometimes small problems turn into big ones if somebody's got to get in their car and drive down here. So if you're going to them, at least to show. I think it's a lot of it is showing that you really care also. And I think that's a big component. There's not too many people that come to your house to do things anymore,
That's right. And Robert, to your compliment, you're one of those people who can do that. You don't have some of these challenges that you're hearing now from some of the bigger dealers. And there's probably a lot of dealers who will not get into this because A, maybe they don't want to, and B, they don't feel they have the right people to make it happen. And that's an advantage, Robert, for you.
It definitely is, Ted. Touching back on what Mark had just said about the survey, and so, Ed, the surveys from a customer standpoint, they're very cumbersome to take also. The customer doesn't want to have to take another 10 minutes out of their life to tell you what kind of a job you've done. And usually, sometimes they're not going to give you a great survey. But I typically just ask people before I leave, was you satisfied with the service that I provided today? And secondly, would you recommend me to your friends? That's the only two real questions that you need. And some people will, be glad to go ahead and take some photos that you might have taken while you were working on the vehicle, share them to their social network, that type of thing. And like Mark was saying, if there is an after, post-service issue, being mobile is the only way to take care of them, because you can go right back to the vehicle. You can take care of it. And it's an oil leak or, some type of a fluid leak. You don't want that vehicle driven back away from that home if they've already seen something in their driveway. So you want to make sure that you get back there and take a look at it.
And for the dealers out there, Robert is the rolling pep boys that we put in business, years ago and didn't come back to our store. And the funny story is I go to the same deli every single day for like the last 40 years to get a coffee. And we plan all this mobile service stuff. And, I got trucks ordered. I got a plan. I got everything. And I think I'm the smartest guy in the world. And I was walking out of my deli one morning when this was in the planning stages. And I walked into this mobile service truck that a guy was doing in my area locally. He was already doing it. So
yeah,
I didn't feel like a genius when I got in my car that day. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
So people are out there already. So if you're a dealer and you're contemplating it, I think you're really, behind already. So you got to get caught up.
Very true.
Absolutely. And a lot of dealers struggle with, how do I make mobile service work? Well, create a plan, find what your break even is. But if we constantly say, well, I can't do it because of this, or I can't do it because of that, we're not going to get there. Robert is not in business because he says, I can't do this or I can't do that.
Correct.
He's in business because he says, what if and why not? And when we look at it from that angle, what if I could do this? And why can't I make that happen? Then all of a sudden your mindset shifts to, I can make this happen. And you start looking for ways to make it happen rather than ways to not do it. And we can resist, but BVs are going to make it more impactful that we have mobile service, because there's so much more of those vehicles that can be serviced in field. We don't have to worry about fluid leaks and all those things that will come from that. And so this is our period to really transition into that, so that we can take care of, so it becomes an easy transition as BEVs become more widespread.
Ed, Mark said that his neighbor has had service at home from Tesla, mobile service coming, and he had a chance to witness that. And that customer has not had to go back to the dealership. So, Ed, is what you're saying is that, this is probably something that dealers need to be getting involved with, even now as we look forward into the future.
If we don't, we're backing up. And the most everything, we don't open up an engine or a transmission out in field as a rule. I mean, maybe a gasket in worst case scenario, but none of that stuff exists on a BEV vehicle. So unless we got to replace the battery on that vehicle, everything on it we can do in field. And so they don't have to roll in here. So if we don't make ourselves available to our customers, somebody else will. There'll be thousands of Roberts out there. And my hat off to you, Robert, for making it happen, because the opportunity is there and you're showing people that it's there. And that's what we got to keep doing, is keep pushing it out in front of people and letting them know that the opportunity is there.
When I was a technician in the dealerships, I used to always have a saying, the guys would say, well, what do you say in an interview when someone asks you, how much money do you want to make? And the correct answer was always all of it. I want to make all of it, as much as you possibly can. And, to the other point was, how are you able to do what you do? No one ever told me I couldn't. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to make sure that I can take care of my family. I'm servicing customers. People are happy. You're able to do all that stuff when you cut some of those administrative things out. When you're cutting that down, and mobile really does that to an extent, even at a dealership level, because like Mark was saying, you have to pick the correct person when they go out into the field. And I try to bring that to every client that I talk to, is I am different. I'm not like, taking your vehicle to a Goodyear or to a chain store like an NTB or a Pet Boys, like, Mark had mentioned. I'm different, and that does sell also, because people see that, you communicate well, you make sure that the vehicle's fixed correctly, you're ASC master certified. There's a lot of different, I pay for my own training. How many technicians have you ever walked into that say, well, I would do it, but no one wants to pay for it? Well, you have to invest in you. You're the commodity. Don't make yourself a commodity either, because if you can be irreplaceable in the dealership, you're always going to have a job. You're always going to have something to do. So.
Love it. Love it. We're hearing from the best, everybody. Mobile service is here. Ed, I'll give you the last word if you want to go ahead and sum it up for our audience.
Well, when we got in this, we ordered 2 vans and we thought that would be sufficient. And instantly, when the pandemic hit, we realized that it wasn't going to be enough. And we ordered 8 more to bring us to 10. And since then, we know that that's not going to be enough as well. So there's 11 coming total. So, and it's not going to stop there. It's whatever we make it. And we have to choose, how can we do it? But take a moment today and walk through your shop and look at the work being done out there. And then ask yourself, could this be done in field? Rather than talk about all the things that you can't do in field, go out and look what's actually being done in your shop and ask yourself, or ask the person working on it, does it have to be on the lift? Does it have to be there? And you will find that about 70% of the stuff being done in your shops today can be done mobily. And if it can be, then we give the customers their time back, and we create a level of loyalty that's unparalleled in any other.
Love it. Love it. So strong, Ed. So strong as well, Robert. Mark, I gave Ed the last word, but I'll come to you for one last word on advice on mobile service.
One last word is, I've had many people ask me about this, and I'm happy to share, but I really, probably the 3 things I don't want to hear in order is, how does this pencil? How does this pencil? How does this pencil? Because I've been thinking about this, because I knew we were doing this, and how it pencils is that there's a hidden profit in everything that you do, right? And a hidden service in everything that you do. And if you're gonna first of all, if you're gonna go out and make it an oil change program, it's gonna fail miserably for you. So don't do it. That's one of the features that you do, maybe, is change oil. So if that's going to be the number one thing where you're going to put a piece of paper down and say, I'm going to do this per RO, it's not going to work for you. So you shouldn't do it. But I don't know how many people will actually stay in the cycle of coming back and getting a major service done in your shop that you can't do in their driveway, or come back and buy another car from you because you provide this service. So that's how it pencils in my mind. And thank God I was able to convince a Fortune 500 company that that's what it's worth, and they believe it. You have a company with you that's 1,000% behind what we do, and want us to do more, which is great.
And Mark, and you said you are leading the nation, are you not?
For Lithia stores, we are, and we're, if we're not number 1 in Mercedes-Benz, we're number 2. So we're pretty close in both, and not I'm not looking for the trophy, but that's how quickly we got to where we are. But I mean, if you're a Ford dealer, no offense, Ed, if you're a Ford dealer and you're not doing this as a Ford dealer, Ford owns 80% of the fleet market. So I really don't know what you guys are doing if you're a Ford dealer and you're not doing this. It's crazy, seriously.
Absolutely.
That's nuts,
All right. We're going to leave it there, gentlemen. These are the leaders in mobile service, everybody. Robert Stage from Stage One Mobile. Robert, thank you so much for all you do for fixed operations and the fixed ops community. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you as well, Ted.
Good luck, Robert.
Ed Roberts from Bozard Ford Lincoln. Ed, thank you for sharing and imparting your information today. So very much appreciated.
Thank you, Ted, and great job, guys.
And Mark Mickens, great to have you back on the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Yes, sir. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Ted. It's an honor.
Yep, these are the leaders.
Especially be with Ed. Ed's famous.
I know, right?
I love you, Ed.
I love it. Hey, Mark, we can't start without Ed, right? So I know that. So.
No, that's it.
All right. Everyone, if you want more information, you can reach out to these gentlemen. They're all on LinkedIn or on Facebook. They're on social media. The mobile service panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
With new Traction software, the consumer will receive the results of their tire and alignment check sent directly to their smartphone. As soon as the tire scan is complete from the TreadSpec drive-over scanner, the results of the scan are sent to the consumer via text message. By clicking on the link in the text, a personalized interactive tire health report is generated for their vehicle. Each tire's condition is displayed showing the appropriate color based on the amount of wear. If they click on the tire, the wear profile is displayed for the tires on that axle. Showing the side view of the profile, color-coded based on wear, has proven to be the most effective way to graphically show the consumer what they need and help increase sales. If the vehicle needs an alignment or rotation check, the inspection icon will be illuminated either by the steering wheel or the rear axle. The alignment page graphically shows, using video animation, what the problem is, toe or camber wear. The TireWise assistant helps explain why doing an alignment or rotation is important. The web-based eTread Tracker report also makes it easy to pass this information around. So, with one click, the person in your store can send all the same information to a spouse or parent, so a joint decision can be made. Not everyone will buy that day. In fact, the data shows that roughly 50% will need more time to think about it. You must have a way to follow up with these customers, or you'll risk losing them to a competitor. And we all know if you lose them for tires, you run the risk of losing them forever. The management reporting module in Traction produces a suite of reports that gives you actionable data to help manage this process. Missed sale opportunity reports, future yellow tire, marketing reports, and most importantly, a scorecard that shows how you're doing and how each of your people are doing individually. The old saying, inspect what you expect, gets a 21st century upgrade with Traction, with fully automated reporting that allows management to easily and actively manage this process. It's the ultimate tire and alignment selling solution for dealers. Traction.
Take a moment to put your Star Cruiser on autopilot mode and scan the QR code on your screen to vote for the Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the end of Day 3. Every vote counts, so make sure you vote for the 5 speakers or panelists whom you think are the brightest stars on the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And don't forget, you can only vote once.
Do you have a great product you want to get in front of auto dealers across the country, and specifically their fixed ops departments? You know, their service, parts, and body shop. For over 15 years, Fixed Ops Magazine has been putting service-related products like yours in front of franchise auto dealers across the country. There simply is no better way to reach every dealer in the USA all at once. Hi, I'm Ron, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine, which is both a digital at fixedopsmag.com and print magazine that reaches out to over 38,000 subscribers who influence what products are purchased in the over 16,000 dealers across the country. Fixed Ops Magazine may even publish your article about a topic you are an expert and have a real passion for in this industry. Every article has the author's contact info so they can reach you. Write an article, run an ad, and an e-blast. We call that our bundle for success. You won't believe how great a deal it is. So to get started, call, text, or email me and I'll tell you more. We are 100% devoted to the franchise stores so we don't waste your time or money. We are laser focused on your prospects. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today. www.fixedopsmag.com. Ron at fixedopsmag.com, 714-803-5476. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today.
A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack, which is why it's crucial to have the right person at the helm of the control center. Anthony Monteiro from Draver is up next to help us navigate the ship.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it's a great honor to welcome Anthony Monteiro of Draver back to the conference, a great friend of the Fixed Ops community. Anthony, welcome. May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you, Ted. I can't say that I am the most qualified expert of Star Wars, but I can tell you Star Trek. If we had that theme, I would definitely know much more, but that's not what we're here to talk about, but let the fort be with us.
And it looks like you're in like a command center there. Is that new for Draver, or is that tied into the event, I think?
It is a command center, and purposely, because our new product that we're going to roll out here in just about a quarter is called Command Center. And really, it's focused around looking at that top-down view, almost like an air traffic controller does of airplanes going in and out of airports. We look at vehicles going in and out of locations. And through our logistics and our AI, we try to maximize knowing what's going into an area and what's going out, and see if we can optimize that trip planning and routing of those vehicles together. So Command Center is on the way.
Well, when we last got together, Anthony, you shared with us a lot of the things that Draver has now put together and a lot of the interlocking pieces. So you've created an amazing platform, and I'm excited to hear more about this and what you've got in store for the auto industry.
Yeah, well, we're coming up with a lot of new enhancements to our product, like Command Center, but also new products, things that consumers will be able to walk out of a restaurant and maybe get a ride with their friend and go somewhere else and order their car to be brought back to their house. Or I just am going on vacation and I want to move my car from A to B to have it with me, but I'm going to fly. And we'll be able to handle that through a consumer-facing app that we already have the infrastructure to do that. It's just, putting it in the hands of the consumer now and having them pay us via credit card and move their cars.
I don't think that the auto industry really understood the efficiencies they could achieve, by using a platform like Draver, and then all that you've shown us and how that's just one piece of the puzzle, and it's led to so many.
Yeah, it's truly amazing how the tentacles of the first thing that we started doing has turned into so many. Identification, customer identification and license verification was something we never anticipated that we'd need to do that. But then all of a sudden we started handing keys to people that not only we didn't know, but the dealer didn't even know, because they were putting a lead in on the website. So we wanted to make sure that, that person was who they say they are before we hand over the keys to a $200,000 Mercedes-Benz.
Wow. You're right. It's led to a lot of things, and
yeah, we can go on and on. There's many, and it's really, really exciting. And it's not the United States. We're moving into multiple countries. We already are: Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Turkey. Because moving a vehicle and moving it efficiently isn't just restricted to us in the United States. It's really a problem that dealers and companies across the world face every single day. And the way we built this, it's can be used anywhere. So, but what I do want to talk about, and what we find and what we found through all of this stuff that we do, is that there's so much waste. And, it's kind of the key word is wasting time is wasting money. And, when people look at the cost of doing things, they want to be efficient. At least if you're a good operator, you want to be efficient. And, I think back to the day, you remember being in the service lane and how we used to dispatch service repair orders?
I remember when I was a salesperson and they sent me back to the service department for the first time, and I had to meet the dispatcher, and meet that person, because that person really held the keys to the kingdom. And we put a lot of control in one person's hand. I remember that.
Yeah. And do you remember their process? It wasn't digitized. I mean, at least if you're as old as I am in this business, it certainly wasn't digitized.
It wasn't scientific, Anthony.
No, sir.
And in fact, it was kind of, by the seat of your pants is how it was done.
Yeah. I mean, there was a desk and the dispatcher was there, and he had a bunch of tickets in his or her hand, and they would deal them out like cards in Las Vegas, right? Like they're playing poker. And, hopefully there was some logic to it, right? Because if the person knew how to fix air conditioners versus brakes, or they were, ASE certified tech in some area, they would give them that ticket and that work. But, we now have electronic repair order dispatching, and it looks at capacity. It looks at skill set of the tech. It looks at, do I have the parts available? How long is it going to take? And how do I maximize and make my service department really efficient? And guess what? Technology does that now. Technology decides who gets that work based on how fast they're going to do it to maximize the profits in the service lane. What we find is that, what we built at Draver is pretty much exactly the same thing, because I have a vehicle that we need to move in a certain amount of time that requires a certain person with a skill set to do it, whether it's CDL, white glove, you name it, right? Can they do this job in this amount of time? And do they have the skill set to do it? And if you look at what's happening in these organizations, not just dealers, but fleet companies and rental car companies across the world, they're doing it just like we did in the service business 15, 20 years ago. And they're dispatching these drivers with keys this time. It's not even a slip. It's like, hey, Anthony, go move this. Hey, Ted, go move this. I don't know if you have the skill to do it. I don't know if you have the time to do it. I'm not telling you where to go. You got to figure that out. So it creates this massive ball of waste, right? And then there's things like people don't even think about. How many times have you been in a dealership and somebody comes on a dealer swap, and then the person who's handling the dealer swap isn't even there, or they went to lunch, or the car's not ready, or the keys aren't ready? Have you ever seen that?
All the time. That happens all the time, all day long.
So think about it. That might be 15, 20 minutes of wasted time, because that driver, guess what they're doing? They're standing there waiting for this person, right? When they should be working, especially if it's your employee. And imagine multiplying that times home deliveries and service pickup and drop off, and you have all of this wasted time of a driver that they're paying money to, right? Whether it's a Draver driver that they're contracting through the Draver app or their own driver, even if they're not using our software, there's so much waste going on in that, not organizing or using logistics to plan all of these things and then measure it and monitor it. And, if I just take,
Anthony, it was never measured. That stuff was never even measured, let alone talked about, right? And you're right.
It still isn't, right? Until we come in and when we measure it and they see all the waste, the controller or the CFO is going, why did it take us so long to get here? Like, because the cost savings is so significant and the efficiency, imagine the customer experience if you're 15, 20 minutes late, 30 minutes late, and don't have a good process if you want to do service pickup and drop off. Their experience is going to suffer.
Yeah, huge. And
So,
you've brought all this to the forefront. And now, the same way we measure a technician's time, being the most profitable thing we sell, you're measuring the time, but in another realm, if you will, and that's the wasted time.
I like how you threw in the other realm. That was really good based on our theme. I like that. So here's the numbers, right? Average dealer moves 30 or 40 vehicles per day, right? Whether it's their lot to lot, a customer pickup and drop off, maybe a vehicle that's going to get a recall done at another dealership because they took it in inventory, something that maybe they acquired that they need to get here to so on average, they move these vehicles about 30 or 40 times per day. Let's say every single time they waste 15 minutes. Doesn't seem like a lot of time, right? The keys aren't there, the car doesn't, all of these things. Let's just say they waste 15 minutes of time times 40 cars. Wow. Times the month's time, that's $5,400 in wasted time. So if you talk to your fixed ops directors and said, hey, you're wasting $5,400 of money that you're paying your drivers to do all of these things, would that matter? Does $5,400 a month matter to anybody in this business? It's a lot of money. It adds up, right? It's about 65K a year. That's two new employees that you might be able to do something, or it's more in the bottom line, which everybody gets paid a piece of the bottom line typically. So, there's so many benefits to it. And when you look at it, not from a cost expense, but from a cost savings, it just totally makes sense. And then I would challenge anybody to say, if you don't want to do electronic dispatching with your vehicle movement and vehicle drivers, then just take it out of your whole service operation. Why do it with your service repair orders too? Because of course it doesn't make sense.
And our industry has historically in the beginning resisted that electronic dispatch. All right. It said, no, we're going to leave it in that one person's hands. And I never knew in the hierarchy where that dispatcher ranked. Was he or she a manager? Were they like an assistant manager? Did they fall below the service? Were they a technician? Where were they exactly? And that was always kind of nebulous, yet so much, was in the control of that person. And you're right. We kind of just trust all that, that's going to happen just right at the dealership. And it's real money. It's real time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even, if I turn just a little bit here, we probably have a couple of minutes left. If I turn just a little bit and talk about time again, right, and waste, well, the challenges dealers face today is vehicle inventory, right? So new cars are hard to get and used cars are at a premium, but they're also hard to get, right? It's hard to get them at the auction. So everybody's trying to buy them directly from consumers. But the reality is, once I acquire a vehicle, my frontline ready time is super important. And you have folks on the show all the time that talk about their recon software, how they're going to reduce the time from when I get the vehicle to when it comes out the recon process so that I can sell it faster, right? Or sometimes I even have it sold before it even comes out the end of that pipe. Well, what they also don't factor, right, is when I acquire it, how long did it take me to get the car to my recon facility in the first place? Am I waiting 5 days for a transporter, or 6, or a week or longer? And when it's done, how fast can I get it out onto the retail lot or possibly in the customer's driveway, because the faster I do that, the faster I turn the car, the more money I've made. So, what if you take 3 days off of the transportation time in the beginning and take 6 hours or a day off at the end, right? So it's not just when it comes out, it's out, and it doesn't just sit there and wait. And someone goes, well, look at all those cars in the back that are ready for frontline ready, but they're still sitting here. So, it's wasted time that, again, is money. And that's really what we look at. When you look at Draver as a solution, we really try to come in as a partner and identify these areas that will help our clients make their business more efficient, which truly makes you a partner, not just, hey, we're a vendor.
Is it hard to get it set up inside a dealership, Anthony?
So easy. It's like anything though, Ted. You got to buy into it. The upper management needs to buy in, and they need to make it part of their process. Just like I think you mentioned, electronic repair order dispatching was pushed back against. But if the upper management and ownership said, this is how we're doing our business, and you either do it here or don't do it at all with us, you can go not do it somewhere else. I had a GM that used to say that all the time with CRM. He goes, you either use our CRM or you can choose to not do it, but somewhere else, right? That was, he'd say it every time. And guess what? Some folks chose to not do it somewhere else. And he had a full staff team of people who bought in and used CRM, and they became one of the biggest Mercedes-Benz dealership in the Northeast. Just through process. And if you do the process, it's not just the software, you have to execute it on your side, train your people, and get them to use it properly.
I think the timing is right, Anthony, because there's so much right now happening. You mentioned the recon process. Dealers are aware right now of the importance of shaving those days and hours off that process to get that vehicle frontline ready. There's so much focus now on time, and that's exactly what you do at Draver. And that's what you save.
Absolutely.
And translates, you just did the math on it. It translates into real big dollars.
Real big dollars. And that's just one little area that I brought up. We can expound that into multiple different parts of your operation. And it's, listen, it's exciting for us to be able to go into an operation and identify that, and then come in and show them and execute it, and then watch them grow and watch them become more efficient, they come up with more ideas too. Dealers and fleet guys and rental car companies, they're super creative, right? Once they get their hands or teeth into something, they're like, what about this? And they'll come to us with new ways to use it and grow their business.
And you have found a lot of those ways, and Draver has become a huge platform, and you encompass a lot of things and do a lot for dealerships, Anthony.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, Ted. And, that's our passion. And, we continue to want to be part of the ecosystem.
So if a dealership or dealership manager wants to get involved, Anthony, wants to learn more, learn what Draver can do for them, what's the next step, and then what happens from there?
So the phone number and websites scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So, click on it, call us. We'll set up a demo. We might have to send someone in and meet you face to face. We still do that too. And it really only takes a few days. Most markets we're in, almost every single city in a major city in the United States, and almost every single state now. And we could have, in a major market, we could have you up and running in just a couple of days. It just depends on how fast you want to get going as a dealer and how fast we can train your people. But it's really a couple of days. And honestly, from the technology perspective, I could turn it on right now and run a trip within the next 2 hours. That's how fast it could run. It's just, are you ready?
And if a dealership is not using it, they're at a big disadvantage, especially going forward into what's happening now and all the change that's coming in our business.
I would say so, right? And what our biggest competitor is? I can do it myself. Right? That's what they say. I can do this myself. I hire my own people. I'll pass them the keys, and then of course we're like, well, how much does it cost to hire a person? And do you want to train them? And who manages it? So is it easier? But, it is what it is, and it's really evolving quickly. And the progressive businesses are all on board, and they see the benefits. And we're here to help.
Get on board, everybody. Anthony Monteiro from Draver has some tremendous solutions that work, that are now, and that are interconnected, and will take your dealership to the next level and save you a whole lot in efficiencies and the bottom line. So, Anthony, on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, thank you so much for all you do.
Absolutely. So welcome. So great to be here again. Thanks, Ted.
Anthony Monteiro from Draver here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Companies across diverse industries conduct a lot of vehicle moves every day. But are you tracking the efficiency and cost of these moves? The level of time and planning, or lack thereof, going into them? Many businesses actually fail to track vehicle movement costs, and that leads them to encouraging, whether they know it or not, wasteful uses of time and money. This is where Draver comes in. We move vehicles daily, at any scale, from local to international, empowered by our AI logistics platform. When it comes to vehicle movement, Draver takes all the heavy lifting off your staff. Your employees are tasked with moving vehicles, people, and packages every day. Draver's simple web interface makes it easy for your people to track and control the chaos. Then, our drivers get minute-by-minute instructions via the app, making sure everyone is on the same page. The Draver platform matches pickup and delivery tasks with drivers and then coordinates drivers to trips. It adds efficient logistics to your operation. Our platform constantly optimizes routes, termination points to origination points, and rideshare versus chase decisions. In practice, it eliminates the need for a chase vehicle over 40% of the time, saving your business time and money. To keep your operation consistently staffed, Draver can predict workforce shortages against daily demand and find insured, vetted drivers ASAP. Best of all, Draver is flexible with your infrastructure. It seamlessly integrates with your software and processes, so you don't have to change a thing. You can use the platform to optimize your existing operations. You can take advantage of Draver's network of drivers, or you can use a combination of both. We make it easy for any business to move vehicles. Whether it's one truck, hundreds of cars, or 1,000 semis, our online platform does it all for you. Sign up today, and we will waive all setup fees, and we'll credit your account with $200 for free moves.
Once you start down the dark path, forever it will dominate your destiny. When we lack accountability, in a dark place we find ourselves, and a little more knowledge lights our way. Lighting our path next is Yoda, which you might know him as Garry House, along with Tom Restino, Julian Dragos, and Scott Gregg.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, where we bring together always the very best in automotive retail and fixed ops. And this panel is an all-star panel headed up by Garry House of Garry House and Associates. And he's going to go ahead and introduce all the players. Garry, you are affectionately also known as Yoda. So welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you very much, Ted. Appreciate the introduction. I'm very glad to be here with this great panel to talk today about accountability, one of my very favorite subjects.
I know it is, and I think you've got nobody better than the gentleman on here. So, Garry, I'm going to step out of the way, and I'll let you get started.
Thank you, Ted. In those dealerships that are really making it happen month in and month out, no matter what the market's trying to dictate, there's usually a common thread. They have a strong and unbreakable chain of accountability throughout the entire dealership, and they rely on that every day. The leaders of these dealerships invest in their people, and they understand the impact that retaining talent has on dealership success. So I implore you, please don't let your current success allow complacency to creep into your chain of accountability. However, I do know there is a problem. This is not a perfect world, and being a leader in the retail automobile industry is not an easy job. Sound accountability management is very difficult in this highly competitive 30-day cycle car business. In many respects, dealership accountability begins with a state of mind. It's the commitment of the employee to deliver the value expected by the manager with no surprises. To move team members toward this state of mind, the leader must create the conditions for accountability and commitment to happen. Building an accountable dealership takes time and effort. There is no quick fix. The results, however, can be groundbreaking and very sometimes earth-shaking. Now I would like to introduce the panel. First, Scott Gregg is from Tucson Subaru, where he's been the fixed ops director for the last 6 years. Scott has a very interesting background. Early in his 43-year automotive career, he spent 16 years working with Carl Sewell's group in Dallas. What a great training ground. Then, Scott and his son opened their own independent repair shop, and after 3 years, he let his son take over, and Scott went to work in service consulting for 7 years with Lee Harkins at the M5 Group. Welcome, Scott. By the way, I'm trying to get my head around the size of your operation at Tucson Subaru. Your website says you have 11 service advisors. How many techs do you have?
37.
Wow. Outstanding. Now that's an accountability challenge.
It is. Yeah, it can be a task for sure.
Okay. Next, Tom Restino. Tom is currently, by the way, I need to say that I am pleased and proud to say that both of these next gentlemen I'm introducing are client dealers of Garry House and Associates, and we've gotten to know each other very, very well over the years. Tom is currently Vice President of Operations at the DePaula Auto Group in Albany, New York, which consists of a couple of what I call monster stores because of their size. They are DePaula Ford Mazda and DePaula Chevrolet. Tom and I believe that if we can get the right personnel in place and have them supported by a strong culture of accountability, the potential for combined monthly fixed gross profit in those two stores is in the $2 million range. That's monthly. In my world, $1 million per month fixed gross for a dealership defines a monster, and a monster is a true accountability challenge. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Garry.
Finally, Julian Dragos is the Director of Fixed Ops for the Fred Beans family of dealerships based in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Although the group doesn't have any monster stores in terms of fixed operations, Julian has corporate responsibility for 21 service departments, 6 collision centers, a couple of auto express shops, and a huge detail department. I think that adds up to 30 organizations of shared responsibility with other key management personnel at the Fred Beans Group. This is a totally different accountability challenge. Welcome, Julian.
Thank you, Garry.
Okay. Our first area of focus is on setting expectations for behavior and performance, then defining them, then documenting them, communicating them, and reinforcing them. So here are some of the things our audience would like to know. How do you establish and communicate behavioral expectations or standards? When doing so, do you define what you will not stand for in your dealerships? What types of metrics define your performance expectations? Do these metrics vary by team member? How often do you believe that you need to reinforce your expectations? Scott, why don't you lead us off? Tell us what you think of those questions.
Thank you, Garry. Yeah, accountability is definitely a struggle here. Sometimes we do have a lot of folks, and the younger people don't seem to embrace accountability quite as well as the older generation, I guess you could say. But I do try to set behavioral expectations by written process. There's expectations that they do certain things or behave in a certain way. And it is I do let them know that that would be a condition for employment here. You know, they can either do it or they can choose to go somewhere else if they want to. Obviously, we don't want that. Retention's a big thing, but they do have to do what they're supposed to do. And then as performance metrics, basically start with industry standards, but we are a pretty high performing store. So I go from there and try to keep bumping everybody's metrics up so that we do continue to grow and improve, and trying to get to that $1 million a month mark. We're close, but not quite there for gross profit, but that's the way to do it. And then I review all the numbers daily. And if needed, I have a one-on-one session with employees if I see somebody slipping or not doing a behavior the way they should be. I have a number of reports I run every day and review. And then also at the end of the pay period, I run a full report that gives me all the metrics. And I go over that with them, every person, on a one-on-one basis, you know, at the end of each pay period. Same thing with the technicians. We run a report every day, give it to the group leaders, we're on lateral support, and they go over it with their technicians. And then I sit in on those meetings from time to time, usually make my way around the shop. So, yeah, that's the main thing. You just have to stay on top of it all the time.
Thank you very much, Scott. Tom, what would you like to add?
Garry, for many years, I was taught to manage by eyesight. And I walk a lot and I reiterate policy. And I honestly believe that there's certain policies that I strongly believe in, is where to park, make sure we have our uniform on, and be on time. And that builds a start of the base of the whole character of that individual. And I just constantly inspect what I'm expecting. And that's the only way you can manage it today, is that you need to know what's in your parking lot, and your people need to know. And if you pass that on to your managers and they have the same belief that you do, and you know it's tough making those people understand that, especially with the younger generation today, you're like a parent to some of these young people. I mean, Scott, you brought that up about younger people. It's a different society today that people are thinking they're entitled. But when I was working, I was excited to even have the job with that person, and always worried that I wasn't performing to the top level. And you want to make sure that our people are all doing the same thing. It's just watching what we expect, and I do a lot of walking. And when you see a problem, I have no fear to tell them you're wrong. And you got to do that. And you got to tell your managers. Just tell them if something's out of place. I'll tell you once, unless you want to go home, like you said, Scott, it's condition of employment. That's important.
All right. Julian.
So, yeah, as you mentioned, Garry, our challenges are, I think, a little different with all the different rooftops and the entities. As far as the metrics and the standards that we set within our group, me personally, as I've grown in the position, I've learned a big piece of our success has been leveraging what I would consider the sort of how we're wired in this business. You know, most of us are highly competitive, type A type personalities. And when you're talking about all these entities in our group, I leverage that. It's all about sharing that information, publishing the metrics, setting a high standard, and almost letting the group challenge themselves to understand where they are against the group. And nobody wants to be on the bottom when we're sharing information. And so a lot of, my approach to the accountability, at least to the metrics and the goals that we're striving for, is get the information out there, share it, not just with managers, whether it be the service managers or general managers, but also we have to show it and share it with the team members. And we have different tools that I believe you may be challenging me on later in the discussion here, that we've adopted within our group to help share that information, get it out to the group. Several years back, I heard what I thought was a very good analogy around reports and metrics. And there's only the only two things you can do when you look at a metric or look at a piece of data, and that is you celebrate it or you go fix something, right? And that's a critical piece of how we look at our information. We set the standard, especially someone like me with all the entities. I can't be in 31 different places all the time. To Tom's point, walking around, I try to do it as much as I can, but I may not walk around somewhere for a couple of weeks, depending upon where I'm spending my time. So it's important to establish the benchmarks and be able to manage by exception to identify. I know where the numbers need to be, and I can quickly identify when something doesn't look right and know where we need to focus our attention with myself and also our team of managers and directors in our group.
Julian, I think that everybody understands that having expectations and activities that relate to those expectations don't mean much unless our people know how to perform those activities, right? Fred has always been a absolute call him a monster about this, about having documentation to support the processes in all the departments of the dealerships. He has a quality service process guide, which I know you have recently updated. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Absolutely. So, yeah, and so every department in our group, not just service, but parts sales, actually new car sales, used car sales, has what's called a service quality process manual. And those were developed actually before my time with the organization. But to your point, they are living documents. And most importantly, at least what I'm most proud of, I feel that is a big part of our success as a group, is these documents were written and are continued to be updated and enhanced by our employees, by our staff members. Obviously a lot of manager intervention with that, but even sometimes there's a lot of input from, the service personnel, service advisors, technicians, to put these processes in place. Obviously having the buy-in is important, in that process. So, and it's a big piece of when we onboard new employees into our organization. It's typically one of the first things we're going to put into their hands. I often try to, especially with someone in a management position, I try to get it into their hands before their first day here. And not that I expect them to read, it's roughly 250 pages on the service side. Not that I expect them to read that from cover to cover before they get here on day one. But to me, it's important to establish that culture and that set of standards, to know that you're coming into an organization that does stand for, certain values, a vision, a mission. And that's what I say about the quality process manual as well, is it's constantly changing because our business is constantly changing. But the piece that I think it really establishes that helps us is it's about setting the goal. It's setting the end result. The processes change often, different manufacturers, obviously, throw different variables in place that we have to adapt to. And in our case, geography, we have stores scattered in different parts of the state. We're in 2 states too as well. So we have differences there that present challenges. But it's important to me. It's so important to be able to say that sometimes how we get there is important, but it's knowing where we're going. And I think that's what those manuals do for us, is it establishes and makes it clear to everyone that this is the end goal of where we need to get to, and what we strive for our company, for our employees, and for our customers. And we're gonna give you that guidebook and give you those parameters to work within. And But yet at the same time, it's a fluid document. If there's a better idea, let's talk about it. Let's incorporate it in and, share those ideas across all the stores and all the entities, not just within one rooftop.
Great. Thank you much for explaining that. I am known for frequently saying that we must measure what we need to manage and inspect what we expect. So here are some questions related to that area of focus. How often is your team members' behavior reviewed against your expectations or standards? How do you keep score on your team members or your department's performance? How is performance reported against expectations? How often do you have visible scoreboarding? As a senior executive, how often do you personally review team members' behavior and performance? Julian, let's start with you this time.
Sure. So simple answer is daily. We have whiteboards in every single one of our operations where we've established a set of core metrics that we want to share with the group, and that is consistent. I will say it's we try not to overload too much information on that board. I think it's critical to really identify what's important and almost what are the driving forces of everything else. I mean, there's so many metrics to look at in this business that, obviously we can spend hours doing that, but most of those metrics are an end result of a root cause, right? So we try to identify what those root cause real metrics are that domino effect down to other things. And we post those daily inside every store so that that's shared and visible to the group. For myself, I have a set of basically daily, weekly, and monthly metrics and reporting pieces that I personally pay attention to. And sometimes I'm doing it on my own. Sometimes it's stuff that managers are sending to me. I'm a big believer in that. As much as we have all these great reporting tools, I still believe I think it's important to have the manager still, to some degree, manually grab some information and send it to me, because it just ensures to me that they're still paying attention and not on autopilot and doing the exercise of going in and looking at a number. And again, we're either celebrating it or we identify we have to fix something. We have we have a term that we use a lot that's called at a glance. And it kind of goes with what I mentioned before, as far as we know what our metrics are. We try to look at it at the high level and then determine where do we need to spend our time really diving into something. So every store does a daily at a glance report for their department. And that's really based on three, call it key indicators. It's what's the health of my department for the day I'm going into. So we would look at things like how many appointments are set up for the day. What does my staffing look like? Do I have everybody here that should be here? Tech counts and things of that nature. Then we look at, how's our health against what goals we've set for ourselves for the month. So pacing numbers, gross profit, things of that nature, effective labor rates. And then the third piece is we look at what's the health of our department long-term, right? CSI, retention, are those statistics showing an indication that our department is running well and set up good for future growth. So, those are key pieces that we're looking at really daily, weekly, monthly. And again, as I mentioned previously, all of that's funneling into sharing that and publishing that across the group. So that at a glance report, actually, that I mentioned that a manager does daily, that gets sent out actually to the entire organization, so that again, other stores are seeing and being exposed to what's going on in someone else's rooftop. Hopefully it drives some competition. We also hope that it drives dialogue, for one manager to pick up a phone or pick up and, send an email and say, hey, I saw you're doing a great job with this. How are you doing it? I'm struggling with this. And what ideas do you have? So, that's how we look at it here.
Great. Scott, what what are you doing in terms of scorekeeping and scoreboarding?
Scorekeeping, we for the technicians, for example, we have a performance towards objective report that goes out every day to all the managers, as well as the group leaders. Like I said, they meet with their group, discuss how many hours each one of them ran, where they at versus their objective. And then we also have a 3-day, if they don't hit their objective 3 days in a row, we bring them in. What can we do to help you? What's going on? Try to make sure that they know we have their back. We don't want them to just fail or feel like they're being left in the lurch. So we do that. We have a morning meeting every morning with the advisors, talk about numbers there, effective labor rate, CSI, things like that. Yesterday we were discussing, Subaru gives us a walk around report, what their percentage of customers said they did a walk around. So we celebrated the ones that were really good. And then we talked about what we could do to help the ones that were on the bottom end get their numbers up. So we do that daily. Kind of like Tom said, I'd walk around, make sure behaviors are being followed. We have to have our name badge on the right side. Everybody has to have that on. And it is little things like that that really set the tone for the whole deal. Everybody's like, what's the big deal about a name badge? Well, it's the fact that you are wearing it. And you should wear it with pride because this is a good place to work. And that just kind of shows your pride in working here. So, yeah. And then, like I said, we have the one-on-ones after every pay period with all the advisors. I also put together the average of all the advisors, and we look at that to see where they stand versus what the average is. And
great.
It gets pretty good.
Sounds like it. Tom, what can you add?
Garry, we have a 6:45 meeting that Ted has been part of before, and at the meeting in both stores, we make sure we go over the day before results, the ASRs, and making sure that we're hitting our target. The other thing too about the name badge, Scott, is that we have the name badge, but we also have a lanyard too. It's kind of like their body armor, we call it. Their body armor, they got to have it on every day. And that's the walk around process. When you see somebody not in body armor, it's wonder why the manager missed it, number one. Number two is that we do have the whiteboards, but then we have a weekly sheet because everybody's got to know where they're going. And if they're seeing it and they're comparing themselves to the person next to them, they got to know it's like a flight pattern. If you're flying a jet or flying a plane, you got a pattern to go on how to get to your goals. And it's just following that pattern, but you got to reiterate it daily. And it's a constant. The 6:45 was created. So it's a morning huddle, everybody, and it gets everybody there on time and you're ready to do when the doors open. It's the huddle. That's was one of the biggest thing. And we're doing the 3-day call-ins with the technicians, but we got to have the huddle every day.
Great. I think it's important to recognize that all of these stores are operating, all the gentlemen on the panel, their service departments are operating either with lateral support groups or simple support groups. And that method of team management or group management in the service department really helps accountability. There are several levels of accountability. Level 1 accountability is the employee is accountable for his own performance. Okay. That's wonderful if that's the level that we're at. Very few car dealers happen to be in that level. The second area happens to be the employees are accountable for each other. That's level 2 accountability. And the lateral support group concept really enforces that level. Level 3 accountability, where most dealers are, is top-down accountability, where the manager and the supervisors are accountable for the performance of those that work for them. Okay, well, it's sure easier if the employees are accountable for their own, or if they're accountable for each other, or if both of those work together. Anyway, the last section of questions that I want to talk about are related to responding to both positive and negative behavior or performance. This is probably the area that we, as a whole in the industry, do the worst job at. We don't give enough attaboys and we don't respond as quickly as we should to negative performance or negative behavior. There's an old saying that says that we're too quick to hire and too slow to fire in the retail automobile business. So I'd like to know just a little bit, other than through compensation, how do you reward your team members for meeting or exceeding performance expectations? Does it most frequently happen through management recognition, or do you do it through peer recognition? Do you award time off for good performance? Do you provide gifts? Do you give promotional status improvements for good performance? Do you respond immediately when somebody exhibits or fails to meet your behavioral expectations? How do you respond? What are the consequences for a team member who fails to meet clear expectations? So, Tom, talk to us about your feelings there.
I mean, one of the ways that we've done in the past recently is that if someone's done a great job, you throw them 10 gallons of gas or just a little something there to help them out to get them through that period that you reward them. On the other piece, when there's a problem with the CSI piece, we have a written process, I'm sure like Fred Bean said, where the service advisors, service consultants have a written roadmap. And you go back to that roadmap and you follow, how did we miss process here? And just counsel them that way, but it's a one-on-one, how to make them better. And it's just improving that person with that. But that's one of the biggest pieces, how we improve that process. That's
great.
How you make them feel better.
Julian, anything to add?
Sure. As far as recognition, I feel we do a good job with that. Again, the fact that we're always publishing the numbers, people are aware where they stand. I'm very much a fan of contests, incentives. I would say there's usually not a month or at least two that go by where we don't establish something fun at the beginning of the month for whether it be technicians or service advisors. And obviously, we're tailoring it towards something that we feel is important for our group, to establish. But I think it's fun and important to, go into the month with something that they know they can shoot for and they can strive to win something, whether that be, like Tom mentioned, something of a gift card aspect on an individual basis. We also do things on a store or group basis to say, the store that can, achieve a goal or perform well. And I'm a big fan of let them choose. It could be some sort of team event. I know we have stores that have elected to do things like go to the go-kart racing as a group and have some fun, laser tag. Could just be a nice dinner out with the group, and we'll usually let the group, establish something they want to work towards, mutually, to say, hey, this is the result we're looking to get, and hey, if we get it, we want to reward you. And how would you like to be rewarded? On the front of, the negative performers, again, it's all about constructive criticism, and I think often what I find sometimes is, especially with the younger generation, we touched on it, is there seems to be a feeling that when we're asking them to do something, or we're trying to get them to do a behavior, that they have to understand more of the why we're asking them to do it. Versus, I don't know, I grew up in the, your boss told you to do something, you did it. And it's a little different today. So I think that's a big piece of the communication of really building value in, okay, do they understand why we're asking them to do this, and what's the impact, not just on our financial performance, but how does it affect the technician down the line, the parts person down the line, the customer down the line, how does that all happen? So I think that communication is important. Something else we do that Tom kind of mentioned it with CSI is, bringing their own awareness into it. We have an exercise where we'll make a service advisor do their own survey on the customer. And I love that exercise because it's amazing to say, okay, fill out the survey as if you're the customer, and how would you fill it out? And then the actual survey comes back in, and why was it so different? Where was the disconnect, right? To say you gave yourself perfect 10s and they didn't. And what can we learn from that? And again, almost self-awareness to the employee to help them, see that value, understand, why we're asking them to do what they do, and hopefully spark improvement.
Scott, why don't you wrap it up for us?
Okay, yeah, I think it is very important to celebrate success. We like to have a lot of fun here. We have a lot of contests. We had a steak and beans contest where the winners got steak and the losers got beans. Stuff like that's fun. Out to dinner, steak dinner, bowling, top golf, all that kind of stuff. Too often we focus on the negative and don't celebrate the positive. And I just think it's very important to keep an attitude of gratitude and power of positivity, all those things. So if you celebrate those things, and it does need to be peer-to-peer sometimes. A lot of times I'll tell the group leaders, hey, tell so-and-so that he did a great job today or last week or whatever. So that's all important. And negatives, you got to get it. It needs to be handled right then. I mean, I used to wait for the best time. The best time is right now. If there's negative behavior, get them in, talk to them about it, make sure they understand what they did wrong, help them to get better. That's what the key to it is, really.
Wow.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you all. Appreciate your input. Great job.
Garry, I've been taking good notes. Julian, I love what you said about having the service advisor do their own survey, okay, and compare. And I think I saw Tom Restino taking some notes on that one too. I loved that, Julian. That was really strong. And comparing that to how the customer actually responded. And I will tell you this, Garry, I have been in Tom's dealership in the month of December. And by the way, it's dark very, very long in the day, okay? And Tom's huddle on the service drive at 6:45, I tell you, you don't want to even get there at 6:30. You got to be early that morning to get there, because that huddle on the drive, Scott, they're doing the walk around for each other. They are wearing what Tom calls their suit of honor, armor, pardon me, with their name tag, and they've got their lanyard right here to check the tires with every customer, every guest, every time. So Tom Restino certainly, walks the talk. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. Great panel. Scott Gregg over at Tucson Subaru. Scott, thank you so much for all you do for the Fixed Ops community. Tom Restino at the Paula Automotive Group, Chevrolet, Ford, and Mazda. Tom, thank you so much for being a great friend of the Fixed Ops community. And Julian, I don't know how you do it with those 30 different facilities, but great job to you at the Fred Beans Automotive Group. And thank you so much for all you do for our industry, Julian.
Thank you, Ted.
Garry, you do an awful lot for the industry, and you have been a mentor to so many people, so many great ones along the way, like this panel. Garry House and Associates. Garry, if our audience wants to reach out to you to learn more about what you do to helping dealers, helping the good dealers become the best, like these folks here, how do we find you, Garry?
They find me by going to my website, which is listed on the scroll across the bottom of the page, or my email address, which is also listed there, or they can call my cell phone at area code 561-339-0043.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Garry House and the All-Star panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.